Hello, is it hot enough for you? It's certainly hot enough for us where we are. We've got fans on, and hopefully there's a few of you sat here ready to watch the Champions Parade. It's like Disney, only better. See you after this. There we go. Right. Well, welcome. Lovely to have you with us this fine Tuesday evening. What a weekend it's been in so many ways. It's been hot on the field, hot off the field. As ever, all the news starts coming out just as we're about to go live. Nothing unusual there. It's like they wait and they go, they're doing a show. But we will muddle our way through it with a plethora of championships that have been decided, cups that have been won, news of people going, news of people staying. I mean, honestly, we've got it all. So tuck yourself in. We might be here till midnight at this rate, but we'll see how long we can last and see what's going on. But whilst we're here, let's have a big hello to everyone. Liberty, lovely to have you back with us. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm warm. I'm a bit not sunburnt, but tender. But I'm fine. It's actually not. I'm actually not burnt at all. It's actually more like heat rash. Okay. But it's slightly better if I just say it's like a bit burnt because heat rash is a bit embarrassing. But anyway, I just wanted to be known that I do take proper care in the sun and wear my SPF, but that doesn't stop heat rash. I'm very warm and I'm clearly delirious. How are you, Barry?
I just love how you've outed yourself there. You know, you kicked off with sunburn, could have left it at that, and it explained why you didn't want to say why it was heat rash whilst telling us it was heat rash. So that is magnificent.
I don't like being dishonest.
What a way to start. Top that, Freya. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My little girl also has heat rash, so you can match. It's fine. No, it's hot. It's humid. It's hot and it's humid, and 2 minutes in, and the heat rash is already. It'll be spreading by the time we're finished. Don't worry. We'll all be nice and rosy.
There we go. Now, Rob, I feel is just a little bit like me, sat next to a fan with a drink nearby. I would imagine that's how we're doing. But Rob, lovely to have you back on the show. Thanks for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, pleasure to be back on, and that is very much the case. Again, got the fan to the very right. You can probably hear it humming in the background. And there's a very nice glass of cold water with some ice in. So what more could you want, really?
I mean, I've got, funny, mine's on the left-hand side, not the right-hand side. I'll be intrigued to see if that makes a difference as to who might be the coolest at that point. But there we go. Speaking of cool, let's get on with the coolness of this Champions Parade that we have got for you today. We've got a few people already in the chat, including Claire, who's a little bit on the warm side, and Emily, who is just saying hello as well. So hi to the pair of you. Hope you are both okay. We're going to kick off with the WSL, just because it's here. We like to travel outwards, as you well know. And also because it was like the longest time ago that it happened, whilst also only being at the weekend as well. We're going to talk about the top end just to begin with. Manchester City winning a title, breaking Chelsea's reign of 6 on the trot. Good. Oh, no, he did here. I tried very hard there, Rob. Sorry. But broke the 6 years on the trot, and we now have new winners in a lighter shade of blue. They finished 4 points clear of Arsenal, who were 2 points clear of Chelsea, who were a ridiculous number of points clear in the end of Manchester United in fourth. And Rob, I'll throw it over to you on this one. Obviously, as you've handed the trophy over to City, what I found really quite interesting is when you look at the matches between the top four. So City did incredibly well. They obviously did the double over Manchester United, and then they won one and lost one against Arsenal and Chelsea. So effectively, we are the reason that Manchester City won that, especially when you then look at the fact that with Arsenal, they obviously drew twice with us, which helps to explain the 4 points that they're missing, alongside their draw and their win against you guys. And then, of course, Chelsea you drew and won against us as well. So technically, that early draw that we got against you there, the reason why you didn't catch Arsenal in terms of level points there as well. So United having a big say in the top three, but not for the right reasons. What did you make of the top four race this season?
I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? People keep going on about the WSL and say, oh, there's going to be a new top four and there's going to be different names in it and all of this. And in reality, we ended up with the exact same top four that I think most people expected, in all honesty, in a case of City, who I always thought this year were going to win it. And I've been predicting that. I thought last year they should have won it, to be honest, the year Bombasta joined, and they underperformed massively. I think they've benefited massively this year from no Champions League football and having much kinder sort of schedules in that regard. Again, obviously they did have the Subway Cup period, they did that, but ultimately at the end of the day they could rotate and play either a B or a C team in that. They won't be able to do that in the Champions League. I think being able to keep players fit was also a big thing as well. They were able to keep most players fit really for the key times and sort of, only have players absent towards the very end of the season. Obviously, I still point out when Yui Hasegawa wasn't there, she was at the Asia Cup. It made them look a completely different side, and I think they need to again you freeze her really in a cryogenic chamber for the summer. But I think ultimately it was like it was probably what everyone expected. In all honesty, from again, I think City have been a very good team. City have been very, very good this year. I think no one should deny it, and I think they are the rightful winners. But I also do think like City's win this year, I think also puts into perspective how bonkers Chelsea's unbeaten season was, of the fact that City, even after having such an unbelievable year this year and really winning it quite comfortably, still finished 6 points off that tally. I don't think teams will get close to winning it 4 or 5 times in a row anymore. I don't think teams maybe even win it 3 times in a row anymore. I think it's so competitive nowadays. I think no UCL is a huge benefit to a team because it means they can rest so much more, especially if they've got the right squad depth. But I actually was more interested, I think, to be honest, in the fact that I think we've got to a stage now where there's, bar 1 or 2, very few games in the WSL, maybe bar Leicester this season, even though it was only the second half of the season, where you look at it and you say that's an absolute banker. And there have been results all the way through, and I think this is, City themselves to come to a couple of them, the draw against Villa, the loss to Brighton. There are now teams, in that middle order of the table that previously you'd look at them, going to Kings Meadow or going to Meadow Park, and you'd look at it and say, right, well, Arsenal or Chelsea are going to win that 2 or 3-0. And nowadays you don't have that situation. And I think that's only a good thing for the fact the league is more competitive. I do worry this might be affected a little bit, though, by the expansion of the league.
The expansion, obviously, a very big thing coming into next season. But Liberty, I think we'll come to you next on this one as the side that finished second for the league. I mean, listen, you went deep into the Champions League and it was a very good performance in there as well. It's not been a bad season for Arsenal, but again, when you look at that top 4, in a lot of ways, it is the matches against each other that have helped to decide that. But as Rob says, a few freak results in there as well.
I would actually disagree. I think that the games against each other, are like very clearly examples of where you kind of expect one side to do better or whatever, and that is where the majority of the points drop. But for Arsenal, once again, team that lost the fewest games, we only lost 1 game, that City game, at the Joy, but it's actually once again the draws that killed Arsenal's title hopes. And I don't just mean the Brighton game, which literally handed City the trophy. I mean the Villa one where at the Emirates, where that very late equaliser, where Arsenal didn't kill the game off beforehand. And was it Lucy Parker? Freya will correct me. It was somebody tall and a centre back.
Wasn't it Anna Patton?
I can't remember which one. They're all the same.
I'm pretty sure it was Anna Patten against her former club.
Honestly, all the seasons are drawn into one. I will check for you, Libby.
Thank you. But I think that game, for example, a game where Arsenal should have done much better and scored 2, maybe more earlier on, wouldn't have resulted obviously in a draw. That's actually where Arsenal season once again had derailed their title hopes, and I think it's the same as is it 21-22, where they once again only lost one game, but it was the draws that actually ended up hurting them more and essentially gave Chelsea the title, because they were ridiculous points dropped where they really shouldn't have been. And I think that actually is what, in Arsenal's case, hurt them more this season. The United game at the Emirates, where we were, had an extra player for 20 minutes more, I can't remember. That kills your season. That's it. Like, I get it was the first game back after Christmas, but that was ridiculous. How did we not score in that game? It's those draws that have actually hurt Arsenal specifically more than the... Thank you. It was Lucy Parker. Then the loss to City, or like, if we're going to be like, I guess, pedantic, the Chelsea draw at the Emirates, where Arsenal were done over by the refs and should have had 3 points there, but didn't.
I mean, if you want to discuss the refereeing from that one, we'll have a 1 hour special on the refereeing.
So it's almost like Rob's here and I'm trying to wile him up on purpose, because we don't usually have a Chelsea representative. But, it's those games where Arsenal end up drawing that actually hinder them more than the one loss to City. Because when you look on paper, Arsenal said 1 loss, which was a very late loss in that very wild game at the Joy. And they actually had, a better defensive record than City did, because they didn't lose as many games, they didn't concede as many goals, but it was the draws that really, really hurt them, which I think is, an issue they kind of need to get over, because this is like the second time this has happened in the past 5 years, which is very silly. But yeah, sorry to disagree with you, Barry, but that's what I thought.
You're allowed to disagree with me. That's absolutely legal. We have free speech in this country for a reason. That's absolutely fine. I would just point out, though, that you did just go on to talk about how Manchester United's draws cost you 4 points, and that would have had you level at the top of the table. And then had you not drawn, as you just said, against Brighton or indeed Chelsea, you'd have won the thing, wouldn't you? So please don't let my facts get in the way of your opinions there. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that Mark Skinner actually had a really good season. Is that's what I'm hearing here? That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, amazing. Like, what a guy. Done exceptionally well. We love fourth place. It's where we live. Like, it's our home from home. So we're very used to it. We like it, apart from the occasional time we finish 2nd or 5th. So, yeah, love that place. Right, there we go. Freya, by all means, have your say on the top 4 race. But I kind of also want to move the conversation on the WSL on a little bit as well to the amazing relegation playoff that we all saw at the weekend as well. It was
much more exciting.
Enjoyed every single second of that match. It was genuinely enjoyable. Charlton actually turning up, I think, really helped.
Very much.
They had a very difficult game against Birmingham, and in fact, the end of their season really was quite difficult. The last 5 games that they played, one of which was the FA Cup quarter-final against Liverpool, they'd only got 1 draw, lost the other 4 games. But to be fair, when you say it like that, it sounds really bad. But when you then consider the 3 teams they lost to were Bristol City, who finished 4th, Crystal Palace, who finished 2nd, and Birmingham, who finished 1st, you can perhaps kind of be forgiven for not necessarily doing the business there. Excellent news for Charlton. The goalkeeper, Sophie Whitehouse, was just absolutely unreal, on fire during the 90 minutes. And then, of course, saving, was it 3 or 4 penalties in the end that she managed to save? Just 4, unreal. An excellent goalkeeping performance. But I think really, I mean, I thought Leicester would win just because of the way Charlton had finished their season. But I suppose we sort of did not take into account the fact that Leicester obviously only won 2 games, drew 3 of them. And their last win was in December. They won 1-0 against London City Lionesses, and then including the Charlton game, they lost their next 13 games on the trot. Mm-hmm. So it was really quite poor for them. It wasn't a good season. Obviously, they got rid of Amandine Mikel just before the season began, brought in Rick Passmore. Didn't really work out. Tell us a little bit about how you felt about that, because we got Sipiwe saying here, best stalemate I've ever watched. And I think I'd go along with that. It was, 120 minutes, and it was exciting. And you always felt that although Leicester were the side attacking, Charlton still maybe had a little something in them.
So we did a live watch long for this one. And yeah, for the first 120 minutes, nothing really happened. No, they did. They had chances. And I think it was just a classic case of 2 teams being very aware that one wrong move and it's all over. So when they were attacking and they were going forward, there was still a bit of hesitation there. Charlton started better, I thought. They were much quicker and much more hungry, because if you think they had played for, I think it was 21 days, because obviously the WSL2 finished before the WSL. So you could tell Karen Hills had really got them riled up to get out there and just really go for it, because if you had to go against any side, I think we said this for the past couple of weeks, you'd want to go against a Leicester who are emotionally probably not okay at the minute with just how the season's gone. You mentioned there about change of manager, and they've lost players, and yes, they try to bring more in, but there was one point, and I know we shouldn't laugh, but it was at one point they brought on Rachel Williams, Ash Neville, and I can't remember who else it was, but they said they had an average age of however old it was, and everyone just went, yeah, that's it, that's all Leicester have got, because they've brought in experience. Yes, and you can't deny that experience, but if you're still, as we saw with United, if you're still trying to use Rachel Williams as your get out of jail free card, something else is not quite working. They only brought Noemi Mouchon. We know what she can do. Yes, combined age of 103 Liberty. Yes, thank you. Because I remember going, sorry. But yeah, Mouchon didn't come on to like the 111th minute, and she's their second highest goal scorer. So if she's been struggling with injury, it wasn't quite sure what was going on there. But I think they missed Lehmann in the sense that she is the type of player that can pop up with a goal completely unexpectedly. So I think they did miss a few there. I think the way they set up was very defensive. So they did let Charlton have the majority of the joy in that first half. They did come back to it. I think they had 2 clear-cut chances. And I think Charlton, throughout the whole match, I was doing the stats earlier, they only had 1 shot on target, Charlton, throughout the whole match. But yeah, Sophie Whitehouse, like you said, was incredible. When it went to penalties, I thought that was probably the fairest outcome, because obviously neither team could make it work through regular time and then extra time. But yeah, we actually worked it out when we were live. Sophia Whitehouse, there was a 0.02% chance of her saving those 4 penalties, and she did it. 0.02. So yeah, it was. Can
I ask for a maths POV? Yeah. Just put my maths hat on. How have we come to that probability? Have you done it as like, because the 50% times 50% for 50%, and then stacked on overall was one probability?
Yeah, so we did it. Paul did it properly, but it was essentially the average percentage of saving a penalty. Environment, and then looking to probability after that.
Yeah, sure. Because I was going to say, because again, this is the thing, people fall into the trap of saying with penalties, it's a 50-50 chance of whether you save it, whether it's scored. But it isn't. Realistically, it's a 33% chance, because you can save it, they can miss it, or it can be scored. And that's what people then forget by treating it 50-50. Sorry for the maths, the maths nerd into inclusion there.
No, but that's what we need to do. We need to dissect these things and make sure they've been done right, Rob.
The best penalty, though, Freya, was the one where she went off to go and look at her water bottle,
Got a yellow
was
card.
yellow carded for it, and then just went, well, I've got the yellow card, I might as well go back to the water bottle and read it again. I thought that was just how I was reading the best quality.
It was just brilliant because so apparently it had been thrown, her water bottle. So one of the stewards had to go get it back for her. So that was the delay initially. So then she was looking at it. So then, he slipped one over and was like, you're taking far too long. She was like, yeah, all right. So, I mean, Claire's in there, missing the penalties, but they're two very good goalkeepers. Katie Keane, that was her first professional penalty shootout since coming into the first team and being in that position. So, Katie Keane as well did an incredible job. And, people are saying the future of Irish goalkeeping is very bright indeed. And it really was. So, Charlton, deserved winners. Leicester taking Sarah Malin off was an interesting choice because she's very good at penalties for what she's done at Villa. So it was just, I think Leicester have just got to the point where, unfortunately, sorry, Rick, if they had someone else, maybe it would have looked a bit different, because I just don't think, even though they've said mentally they're more together than they have been the past couple of years, I just think tactically it was just all wrong. So Karen Hills and the club for everything that they've been through. Highest attendance as well for 20 years, I think, 3,779. It was just incredible. And I put shout out to James, who has followed the 115 yards since the beginning. He's a Leicester fan, and he sent us a video of the team coming over, and it's a bit sweet because you've got the juxtaposition of the Charlton team celebrating in one corner and then the Leicester team kind of slowly coming over to clap in another one. And then, of course, there was one comment going, oh, women's football really attracts the people, don't they? And I was just like, delete you, because you've completely missed the whole point of what this video is celebrating. So really, really bittersweet at the Valley, because you just hope what's going to happen next to Leicester. And hopefully they're not going to be another Reading, another Blackburn, another club that we've seen just free fall once the relegations happen. So interesting one.
Doesn't seem ideal. And again, you mentioned Claire saying they're missing 6 out of 9 penalties wasn't great. They weren't missed, they were saved. And I don't know that I would say that they were all terrible penalties. There were a few that I'm sure if people could take again, they would probably try and be a little bit more accurate or a little bit harder. But ultimately, goalkeepers got to guess the right way. They're all great penalties if they go the right, put the goalie the wrong way. The minute they go the right way, all of a sudden, terrible stuff. I would give the credit on this occasion to the goalkeeper. And yes, the South seemingly taken over, specifically around London in the WSL. And if that's going to be half of WSL, that's 7 teams, which is what we're going to have coming up. The old Sevens coming up with the World Sevens taking place in London. Who knows who might turn up there? A couple of quick fire questions with regards to the W. We'll get to that, Liberty, don't worry. With regards to the WSL, 2 very simple things. One, lots of talk that Charlton, having done all the big work, will come back up. They'll go straight back down, Emily's saying here Charlton needs to go and have a good market in the summer and bring in a better manager if they want to stay in the WSL. So my 2 questions are simply this. 1, do you see Charlton going straight back down into the WSL 2 after the end of next season? And question 2, how important was the news that Bunny Shaw signed a new contract for Manchester City moving into next season? So those are the 2 quick fire questions. They won't be quick fire because somebody's going to expand on it massively, I'm sure. But in the same order that we just went round, in Rob, Liberty, and Freya, those are your 2 questions. Off you go.
I mean, I'll start on the Shaw, because I'll be honest, I don't think anyone was surprised at the outcome. Like I said this to someone at the time, I said it's going to end up with City caving. I think the fact it played out so publicly resulted in that. As the comparison I made to it, I think, was Arsenal when Miedemar left. And it was very, very public in that regard, but it almost went very quiet and there was almost the acceptance. Whereas with this one, I think because the fact Shaw was winning so many PFA awards and winning so many awards, everyone was saying, you can't lose her. It effectively backed them into a corner that it had to happen. And to be honest, based on everything she said, she wanted to stay at Manchester City, so I think it's probably the best outcome for the player as well. I don't think it's ever good for a player to move clubs because they feel they've been forced out and they feel they've been pushed out totally because they're not going to be happy in their new surroundings. Regarding Charlton, it's hard because the obvious thing you want to just say is yes, they'll go straight down. But at the end of the day, is it 2 up next year and then 1 in the relegation playoff, or is it 1 up and then the relegation playoff? Can someone remind me?
I think it's just 1 up and then the playoff.
What 1 up in the playoff? Yeah, I mean, like, realistically, you know, in the season and stuff, they were able to pick up points against the likes of Birmingham. You know, they picked up points against Birmingham this season. They only threw it away on the final day. They picked up points against Crystal Palace and only, you know, end up losing on the final day. If they can pick up points at those games, maybe, you know, get a point away, you know, cut the points away at someone like West Ham or someone like that, I think it's going to be one of those cases. It's going to be quite a small points total is going to keep you up because of the expansion in the first year. And then hopefully if you do stay up, you know, this is where Leicester, I think, where it went wrong. You need to build on it and you need to work on the basis of that saying, okay, year 1, we're going to finish 11th. Year 2, we're going to finish 10th. Year 3, you know, we're going to be 10th again, but we're going to consolidate 10th and then so on and so forth. And I think some of the recruitment they did move towards that. I mean, I can't imagine, to be honest, the likes of Jutta Rantala and Janina Leipzig playing in WSL 2 next season. But I do think there's an awful lot of players there that just aren't WSL standard anymore. A lot of them are very old players, you know, the likes of Rachel Williams, Ash Neville, even Mouchon to an extent. And you're looking at players there that, like, they'd be better off maybe, you know, Nelly Lass is clearly very talented and highly regarded in the England setup. You've got Katie Keane, who's clearly a really good young goalkeeper. I will say I did feel very sorry for Katie Keane, actually, after that game, considering that a few weeks ago I watched her play in the game against Chelsea and she played really well. And in that game, unfortunately, she happened to come up against the fact Lauren James just decided, I'm going to score 2 worldies against you. And to be honest, it's the sort of game where any goalkeeper she'd been up against would have been made to look like an idiot. But I do think it'll be good for Keane to get a year's worth of regular experience. And I think that's what they now need to do, is build a young core, build a young squad, bring in young players, and use the really talented academy they have got at Leicester, because they've got good players that they can bring through. And, you know, if they can maybe pick up 1 or 2 astute loanees, pick up a veteran or 2 for the experience, it's a good place to be in.
No, for sure. Just to point out, Emily is, of course, correct here as well. So the team that finishes 14th will go down. Team that finishes first in the WSL 2 comes up. Team that finishes 13th in the WSL will then play off against the team that finishes second in the WSL 2. And that is how that will work. So sorry about that, Liberty. Straight back into you.
On Bunny, it is the most important business I think a top 4 WSL team will do this window. Anyone I was talking to about it, I was saying this is going to be the stupidest thing to ever happen to a football club if they let her go. And so it is the best business. I don't think it can be understated that this is so core, because Man City without Bunny is like worlds away from what we expect because of what she gives to the club and what she gives to this team. She is their most important player, and we've seen them in the past couple of seasons fall off when she's been injured. And there's a reason why people are saying, you know, their biggest asset this season was that she was fit the whole season. And so, yeah, on Charlton, I have absolutely no idea if Charlton will go back down. And I say that because we will have 3 teams this season on less than Premier League team money, if you get what I mean. So West Ham, obviously, the men were relegated to the Championship, Premier League 2, if you will. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Charlton, obviously, will be on not Premier League money, and so will Birmingham. Is that right? Barry's looking at me like I've said something wrong. That's right.
Yes. Birmingham are in the Championship.
No, actually, I'm staring at something else.
Sorry.
It's on my screen, so it will look as if I am staring.
Sorry, I started panicking that like suddenly they'd been promoted and I'd like missed it. But yeah, that's 3 teams that will be on less than Premier League money. Obviously, London City is on not Premier League, but they're on Kang money, so that's basically Premier League money. So I think that if they were the only team on not Premier League money, then maybe I'd be inclined to say yes. But I actually have no idea. And I think specifically we've seen Birmingham, for example, make a club record signing in last summer on not Premier League money as such. They're happy to put down the money, but we've seen West Ham have Premier League money the past couple of seasons and not really buy players and have this ability to get really good players to West Ham. So I think that depending on how much West Ham are willing to invest now that they are in the Championship for the men, what West Ham is basically going to look like in the men's Championship, that could really impact the women. And I think that it's not a surprise that the only non-Premier League team this season were the team that went down in Leicester, because a lot of the investment into the women's teams are still tied to how much money the men's teams make. And I'm not saying that it's going to be between West Ham, Charlton and Birmingham to go down. I don't think that's not how my philosophy is. But I think it's less clean cut to say, yes, Charlton will go down, yes, West Ham will go down, because we have more teams on less money than a Crystal Palace, whose men are playing in the Premier League, or a Liverpool or something like that, or a Villa, or XYZ. Other teams are available. So I think that for me, I can't say yes or no because of that. But it will be interesting to see if West Ham specifically are willing to do the business to stay up. Obviously, they've said that Katie Zellum is staying. I was going to say full-time. That's permanently. That's what I want. So it just depends if they continue that or they're going to fall into bad habits on just less money. But yeah, so I don't know about Charlton, but Bunny staying is the best thing that could happen to City this season, this transfer window, and also announcing it at the trophy parade is very, very clever. And the fact that it was only signed yesterday morning, it's a bit insane to me. But announcing it at the parade where you have thousands of fans across both teams is just, hats off to them. Whoever thought of that, I was very impressed.
And the fact that they've signed out till 2030 as well just shows a huge kind of U-turn, because if they were thinking about, maybe not do it, now to bring out a 4-year contract is like, okay, they've definitely realized what they're going to miss if they let it go. But yeah, so Bunny Shaw, like everyone else has said, not surprised at all, because it seems like quite a few teams now are in the market for a striker. So do you want to enter that market and maybe fight for someone you're not going to get and someone who's not as good? Because obviously Bunny Shaw is a proven fantastic striker with that. So yeah, it felt inevitable, because obviously she was saying she wanted to stay and that kind of thing. So I'm glad it seems to have worked for both parties. And yeah, 4 years, even still in the women's game, 4 years is huge, isn't it? So so fair play to her and congratulations for that one. In regards to Charlton, I think they've got just as good a chance as anyone else, because we've seen, sorry Villa, but we've seen now Villa's season's panned out. Yes, they got 20 points. Oh, that sounds really sad, doesn't it? They got 20 points. But yeah, I mean, there's possibilities for teams to come up and everyone's like, no, not going to happen, and then they completely surprise you. So because I've watched the WSL2 this season, I know anything is possible, and I really hope it's not those teams that are in the bottom. I know probability-wise, it's probably on the likelier side. But yeah, I think the fact that there is that playoff again, I think they've still got a chance of whoever is in that bottom, whether it is West Ham, if they don't seem to do much with that money, whether, we don't know what Everton are going to do. There's still a bracket of teams that have got so much untapped potential that they just need to do something with it. So whereas Birmingham, they have got the money, and I can see them really going for it. You've got Palace, who I know it's been rough with managers and kind of backroom staff last couple of seasons, but I think they're coming out of that now, and they're in a good run. So yeah, I'm not writing anyone off, not even till the final day. So yeah, I think Charlton are going to have a really good go of it back in the top flight.
And nor should you, to be fair, write anybody off. I think it's all shaping up to be a very interesting season next season for WSL. Of course, the first season that will have 14 clubs in it, so we will get 4 extra matches, 4 extra match weeks, which I think is fantastic, something we're all looking forward to. And if you take club politics away from it, you want to see the best players in the WSL, and so having somebody like Bunny Shaw at the club and in the WSL can only be a good thing in total. So very good and nice to see some new faces in the division as well. Right, let's move away from that and go to another great match that happened this weekend that I was thoroughly engrossed in for the first half. And then I thought I could do my shopping in 20 minutes. I couldn't. And then missed the vast majority of the second half, which was incredibly frustrating. Thank the Lord for the ability to go back in time and rewatch these things. But the Women's Champions League final did take place at the weekend, and Barcelona, you kind of want to say Bottleon, but that just wouldn't be true, because although the scoreline was 4-0, they had the same number of shots. It was 50-50 possession. I mean, it was the most not 4-0 you'll probably ever see. It just came down to the clinicality and the ability to score a goal. Lyon, of course, the most successful side ever in this competition, having won it 8 times, been runners-up 4 times between the years of 2010 and 2026, which means they've made 12 out of the 17 finals that they could have reached. Barcelona chasing after them and have moved by rights into second position as the second most successful side, with just the 4 wins and the 3 runner-up spots. But those were all between the years 2019 and 2026. Meaning they've made 7 out of the last 8 finals, and indeed are the only Spanish side to have reached the final. PSG for France did make 2. Didn't win any though, so sorry, Paris fans there. But there we are. So many places we could start with this one, but let's be brutally honest. It would be rude not to start with Liberty on this particular position, purely because I found at the end of the match, watching them lift the trophy and all the interviews and everything that was going on, it was actually, it tugged on my heartstrings a little bit to see good old Eva Pahor having finally won one, having been in the final for 6 seasons and not managing to win one. So for not just to win one, but actually the first half, I very nearly messaged you both, Freya and Liberty, going, that Eva Pahor, she needs to do better at her finishing. What's going on? And then, of course, the first 2 notifications that come through on my phone, Eva Pahor. And, I mean, the first one's a lovely little goal. Patry playing her in and straight across the face of goal. The second one obviously turned in from a Parahuelo, her cross, which was very good. 2 great goals for Eva Pahor, gave her the win. Liberty, talk to us a little bit about those goals and also your opinion on whether or not Lindsay Heaps was offside. I feel like the answer is a definite yes. VAR, I feel, got that right.
Yeah, I think it's offside. I don't really have any issues. I think there's a lot of let me start here. Before the match, there was a lot of if Barcelona lose this, it's because Eva's cursed. It's true, it is cursed. And so much so that when the final whistle blew, the first message I sent someone saying Eva is no longer cursed, because to go to 5 finals before this one and be the runner-up each and every time across 2 different teams is like really quite extraordinary. I've never heard it happen before, really, that I have like vivid memory of. And then you see that she scores the 2 goals, she assists the 3rd goal. Maybe no, actually might have been the 4th. One of Salma's goals, she then assists, and at 3-0, I think it was the 3-0. One of the goals she didn't actually score herself. She fell to the ground on her knees whilst everyone else ran off to celebrate, and she's clearly emotional, and Aitana goes up to her and like pulls her up, gives her a hug, because you can just see the emotional release from her. I think that it can't be understated that a lot of weight and a lot of expectation is constantly on her shoulders, both now at Barcelona and also for Poland. That can't be understated. And so to go and do the one thing that has evaded you 5 times before, and to be the the second most important player on the pitch that day, I think technically Katakoya would probably be the most important player on the pitch because some of her saves were extraordinary. Must have been such a release for her. And I think that you can see that every one of those Barcelona players wanted to do it for her. I think when Alexia gave her the trophy and she does her own lift, and they're all just looking at her and celebrating her. And, you know, since she joined Barcelona, she has been the missing piece that they didn't have before. They needed a striker like her and they got it. And she has, you know, was top goal scorer. She scored so many goals across both seasons. And so for her to have that moment where she finally did the one thing that's evaded her, is like as Barry said, like he was like getting a bit emotional, well, teetering on. I was, because it's one thing to see a player that you have, you know, hyped until the cows come home, do it, but to do it and to finally to get over that last 1%, that the final hurdle, it just really, really touched me. And I think that she's a player that in the past 2 seasons since she joined Barcelona has got more recognition from a wider audience than she did at Wolfsburg, purely because people have more eyes on Barcelona than they did on Wolfsburg. And also going to the Euros last year did help. But I still think she's underrated in places. But now, you know, she's being predicted as like top 3 in the Ballon d'Or for the end of this, well, not the end of the season, for October time. Obviously, that means nothing really until that actually happens. But to have a player who has been snubbed in places or not had the hype she deserved, it's very touching to finally have her bride, not bridesmaid moment for the Champions League. And there are 2 best strikers in the women's game, and she is one of them. And so the fact that she has a European title to her name is just very touching. And yeah, I don't care for Ballon d'Ors and stuff, but if she went in, I don't think she'll win it, but if she does, she goes far. She's already made such a tangible impact on women's football in Poland that it will just go even further. And I think that it is a privilege to live in a time of women's football, watching her and what she is doing and what she is, how she's impacting the sport in Poland, but also other countries who don't have a name like her. You know, there are countries in the world who are just as small as Poland who don't have these big stars, but she will be helping them without really knowing it too. Because if you can see somebody from a small country like yours winning European titles, then you can think that you can do it too. And yeah, I'm so happy for her that she finally kind of got rid of the shackles, because obviously, as much as I was delighted that Arsenal won last season, to watch her have that bad of a game in last year's final in Lisbon to go and almost do a 180 and get 3 goal contributions in this year's final and be named player of the match just was like, yeah, I'm just very happy, and I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. I'm going to blame the Heat.
That's absolutely fine. There we go. But again, exactly the reason why we came to you first on that one. And of course, she was the top goal scorer for the whole competition as well, with 11 goals, the same as Mateus managed in 2022. We're not quite at the point of talking about Mateus, but she will come up imminently, I am sure. But just before then, Freya, I'm going to come to you on this one because there were 2 fantastic goals right at the very end of the game as well. The first one again from Parajuelo, which was, for me, the goal of the game. Absolutely superb, shifting into the middle and sticking it into the top corner. And then the last goal, and they made a big deal out of this on Disney when I was watching it, but they made a big deal out of the fact, and the right to do so, that Eva Pahor for that last goal could have tried to take it on herself. 3-0 up, they won the Champions League. There was no doubt about that. And she could have tried to go for the Champions League hat-trick just to crown what would have been a glorious day for her anyway. And instead, she plays in Parajuelo, who pops it into the net, 4-0, and just accentuates the scoreline. For everything that Liberty was saying there about the player that Eva Pahor is, that also just encapsulates, when you consider at the beginning of the season, we were all talking about whether even be a Barcelona. The fact they only seemed to have 17 players on their payroll at the time. They were just hemorrhaging players in the way that Leicester were hemorrhaging points, I suppose, really. It was just madness. Just superb for Parajuelo as well there. And what did you make of those goals and indeed the final?
Yeah, I think when started watching it, and for some reason I did the same thing. I watched the first half and I was like, oh, this is quite intense. This is 0-0. I think, again, I know we've mentioned VAR briefly, but I thought that would have like lit a fire under Lyon a bit more, and I think it kind of did, but then it started to fizzle out as soon as Payot got her 2 goals. If you see him doing this, by the way, a blue bottle's got in, and it keeps dive-bombing my head. So just kind of ignore me if I do that. So yeah, it was one of those where I thought it was going to be a lot tighter than it was, and it was tighter than the scoreline suggests, like you mentioned. But yeah, I think it just came down to that hunger that Payot has, and like everyone said, the emotion when she scored and the reaction of all the teammates around her, and you just think, yeah, that's what this means, and they're the players that you want in a final like that. And like you said as well, you know, she could have had a hat-trick. She was through on goal, but the fact that she looked up and went, actually, Parajuelo's in a much better position, let me pass it off to her. Because I remember writing it down and thinking, you know, even at 2-0, you know, they were celebrating like they'd won it. But the fact that Parajuelo then went on to be like, I'm going to score twice in 3 minutes. And again, it's that clinicality of, I'm just going to have a goal. And I think we've seen so many times, especially, you know, like we mentioned the Charlton Leicester game, there were so many times players were maybe a bit scared to have a go, and scared of, oh, what if I get it wrong? And what if I, you know, passing it doesn't work out and that kind of thing. But yeah, to have that confidence of Parajuelo, who is still incredibly young, by the way. It feels like she's been around forever, but very, very young indeed. She's what, 20, 21? She's still going to be 19 in my head, but yeah, to just kind of pick it up and make it out of nothing for that 3rd goal, just shows her quality as well. So yeah, I thought Lyon were close, and Liberty mentioned about Katakoi making some saves, and normally, you know, Katakoi's all right. I prefer Misa, but that's a different conversation. But no, Kata was incredible in that match, the saves that she was pulling off. So yeah, I think, you know, if a different day, maybe it wouldn't have been a clean sheet, and they would have got something back. But yeah, I think on the night, just that clinical edge and that fire, Barca are champions for a reason, aren't they? So yes, very enjoyable indeed.
It really was. I mean, I found it, like you say, incredibly enjoyable. All of it that I watched, I loved going back to watch the second half. It was a very watchable second half as well. which was fabulous. Rob, we'll come to you on this one. By all means, tell us your thoughts on the match, but also on a few of the players, because the player of the season for the Champions League was, and I always find it incredibly lucky how when they do these sorts of awards, those players happen to be in the final there to collect the awards. They never seem to have someone who they can just ring up and go, listen, I know you got knocked out in the semis, but any danger you could pop over because we've got a little award for you. But Alexia Putellas winning the Player of the Season award for the second time. She won the first ever one. She won this one as well, with Bon Mati winning the other three. And on the other side of the coin, Lily Johannes for Lyon winning the Young Player of the Season award for it. Something that the likes of Selma Basha and Lena Oberdorf and, of course, Melchi de Mornay have also won. So your thoughts on some of the standout players for you through that game and the Champions League as a whole? You've been very much in the same boat as me when it comes to the Champions League, dreaming but not quite there. So what did you make of it? Because I think, honestly, this has been one of the best tournaments in a while, but that might be because it's the first one I've really watched from start to finish avidly.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I want to say just one thing. I'm delighted that Aitana Bonmati managed to get over her travel problems to make it to Norway. I appreciate it's obviously a very difficult place to get to, Oslo, completely in the middle of nowhere, a capital with no transport links whatsoever, completely cut off from the world. So I'm delighted she was able to make her Lord of the Rings-esque trek through Mordor to get there. I do have to say that was one of the most embarrassing things I've seen in the run-up to a tournament. I appreciate that if you want to discuss capacity of the stadium, I understand that that's a debate to be had, but then you're just basically saying, well, we only want games to be held in a few countries that have big stadiums and we want to deprive it from elsewhere. But complaining about the location because people couldn't get tickets when they knew it was going to be there for a long time is a bit like going, leaving your house open all day, getting burgled, and then complaining that someone burgled you. All right, my rant on that aside, Alexia, there's no real words, I think, that can give Alexia the credit, not only for the player she is, but also for the ambassador I think she is to women's football. The fact that the star power, I think, is so unique, and I sort of tweeted this myself today. I think the fact that she's leaving Barcelona is akin to, for me, to when Messi announced he was leaving on the men's side. It is something that will have shockwaves through the game. Wherever she ends up, it will be an amazing story. There will be a huge amount of media interest. And also, you have to chart it of, Barcelona, I believe herself and Marta Torrejon were the only players that were there during that semi-pro era of Barcelona. And they are the only players that fall into that gap. And you sort of, again, them leaving, you have a closing of a chapter and a closing of a book. And Alexia is just a magnificent footballer to watch. I think not only the quality, the skill, the end product, but also the fact that she plays just like she enjoys the game and she enjoys being a part of it and she wants to entertain and be the sort of spectacle and entertain the crowd. And I think that's such a massive thing in the modern game, especially where increasingly it's becoming a lot more robotic in some spheres. And, there's such a relentless focus on passing teams to death. Having that, that creativity and that flair and that vision is quite something. In terms of player of the match, I think Payol was the right selection. Again, when you're a striker and you score twice in a final, you should rightly get the award. Obviously, Salma scoring 2 very good goals late on, impressive to see. But ultimately, I think if you looked at it, on the balance of play, Payol was the real difference maker, and that's what you should decide it on. Katakoi, I think, was named goalkeeper of the tournament. I think she had the most clean sheets throughout, played very well in the final, so well deserved. And I think generally the quality of it has been pretty good this year, because the fact you've had a lot of teams that on paper were coming into it and thinking, yes, we can win this. And I think also with the way the new seeding works and the way the new seeding groups have fallen, you actually have a chance for a much more compelling set of quarterfinals and semi-finals rather than just one team steamrollering their way through on weaker draws.
Absolutely that. Listen, we'd be foolish not to talk, regardless of the fact we've been I won't say ordered not to. But Maya here saying, let's not talk about Alexia or Mappy, Honor, Torion or Salma. Today's been an awful day. It seems all of them are out. You just never know. Maybe they're doing a bit of a bunny on you. We'll wait and see as to where we are there. But we do know for a fact that Alexia Putellas is leaving. The rumours are that she may well be going to London City Lionesses, who are not, short of a few quid, and so are more than likely throwing just everything at her, you would imagine. But very important nonetheless. So let's throw it round here. She's called Lorena for a reason. She is, as Rob says, a role model and certainly someone to look up to within women's football. But what do you see her doing? Do you see her going to London City Lionesses? Do you see her searching for something else? Do you blame her for wanting to leave Barcelona, who are just incredibly successful at the moment, leaving while they're on top? What do you think of it? Because it seems a bit strange in some ways for her to be leaving, but equally, like you say, life is short and some people want to try some different challenges, and maybe there's only so many times you can do the same thing before it gets a bit boring. I don't know. That's open to all of you. Whoever wants to come in on it, feel free.
I think Alexia always said that she would be open to leaving Barcelona when she felt that they were past the point of needing her, when the players who were younger than her, let's put it that way, were at a point where they no longer needed her guidance. And I think that says a lot about where Barcelona is now as a team. I think that when you look, for example, if Sarah Geordie needed guidance in midfield, then maybe she'd stay and help her. But I think that this is sort of her passing on the baton for somebody else to be that guidance. If we're taking that example quite literally, maybe she's going, Patry, this is your time to be that guiding light as this midfield presence, or maybe she's looking at Eva or Kata. And I think that she's always been true to her word. She's never been one to say something and then back down. And I think that this is her saying, my guidance, my space at the helm of the ship isn't needed anymore, and it's time for this team to move on, which I think is quite interesting, because she is still a player that has 5 years left in her, despite missing a year to an ACL injury and being 32. I think she genuinely could go until 40. I can see her having a Marta / Karen Sager kind of career where she does go to 40. I think that she comes back from the ACL. She has a slight injury again, keeps her out for a couple months, and then since that, it's like she never left. And so I think that this is just her saying, look, I want to leave Barcelona in the best possible place, and I want to leave on a high. And, winning the quadruple was definitely a high. And I just think this is her passing on the baton to the next generation, whether that's Vicky Lopez, whether that's, as I said, Sarah Geordie, who, is 18 and started the final. It's just insane to say that. But yeah, maybe she's passing on the baton and she's saying, I've done everything I can to put Barcelona in the best position possible, because she does love this club with her whole heart. And yeah, I think that's what it is. A lot of people are saying it's contract length, it's money. If it's the technical side of football, then I'm happy that she's made a decision for herself and not what other people expect from her, because there is a lot of expectation that she would stay at Barcelona forever. And if she's made that decision for herself and her future post-football, then I'm so happy that she's done that, because you get to a point in your career where you need to think for yourself first, and I think that that's where she's at. And I think that for a player who's been through some real hard times in football, obviously her ACL, but also losing her father just before she got her first big moments at Barcelona. He never saw her play for their club. For her to kind of go full circle and leave on this high of the quadruple of being the best player of this generation of footballers, I think it's a really beautiful thing to see her have that ability to make that decision. I've seen a lot of people online saying that as well, saying that they're happy that she's not been forced out, that she's making this decision. And I think that if you go by the reactions online, the messages from her teammates, past and present, that she is clearly one of the truly most beloved characters in our sport for a long time, maybe, I wouldn't say ever, but for a good long time, she is one of the most beloved characters. And what she's given, I liked what Rob said earlier about her being an ambassador for the game. I think that that's so true. And I think that, that she's left Barcelona and Spanish football and the Spanish league in as best place as she could. Well, she's left Barcelona in as best place as she could. And the fact that she gets to go and have like this new adventure, and her career's not over yet, and we still get to keep watching her wherever she goes, London City, whether she goes NWCL, Mexico. I saw somebody say earlier that, Mexico is a usual hotspot for Spanish players to go because of the language. There's no barrier there. But wherever she does go, the fact that we as football fans get to continue watching her, and this isn't the end of the road, I think is the best for everyone, because she truly has so much more to give. And whether that ends up being it's really nice to watch, because you wouldn't want to see somebody fizzle out. She still has the hunger and the fight in her eyes for football. It's just going to be aimed at a different club. And if it's here in England, if it is for London City, then that is going to make next season very, very interesting. I know it's a bit of a cliche about London City at this point, but if you can go and get somebody who's going to be in the top 3 of the Ballon d'Or come October, you completely change the dynamic of your midfield. And it's going to be so interesting to see if that does happen or if she goes somewhere else. But either way, it will be such a joy to watch that wherever she goes.
Anyone else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna excuse me. If anyone hasn't watched her leaving announcement, by the way, I'd very recommend doing so. It's probably more cinematic than some Oscar-nominated films are. Just the production, the even like the memories, and it's incredible. And obviously, as someone who appreciates Barcelona as a team, and I've been to the Johan Cruyff Stadium to watch them, and I always even get a bit emotional because it's just one thing that you don't expect. I think it's a bit like Leah Williamson and Arsenal. Like, you don't expect her to ever leave. So I think if that ever happened, then this would encourage that same reaction. But I remember going to the Johan Cruyff Stadium for the first time, and that was the first moment where I thought, this is huge, because the banners that were there with Alexia, like meters tall with a cape, with Lorena, and just everything, I thought, this is fantastic, because I hadn't really seen that really in England a lot. So to know that was growing and that was out there, and you just thought, this is really something special. And just to go on what Liberty was saying, she's very much said, and this is on a video, she's saying, to those of you coming after us, I always tell you the pressure in the jersey are a privilege. The future of the team now belongs to you, and it's going to be your turn to make history at the best club in the world. And then she says, after all this, the moment has come to admit I've given everything for these colours, with daily discipline and obsession, in pursuit of constant perfection and improvement for 14 years. I've always said this jersey cannot be defended halfway, and I admit that I've emptied myself. So I want to tell you this will be my last game. So yeah, she's very much saying I've given everything I can to Barca. So now it's time for a new journey. And she calls it, una historia perfecta, perfect story. And it really has been just everything she's achieved on and off the pitch. And how many young children and players she has inspired. But yeah, if she goes to London City, I mean, the shirt sales are going to be incredible, and the attention. So, from a media perspective, that's going to be incredible. But you just think, is that really the right team? If we're with money aside and everything, I mean, I'd love a Putellas Izzy Goodwin link up. That would be incredible. But is London City the right team for an Alexia? Personally, no. But if it is for the money that has been reported, should be a fool to say no, really. So yeah, it's an interesting mix of head versus heart, I think, this one.
Be a nice retirement pot, that's for sure. It's quite clear. Morella here, a Barca fan, she's not happy. I don't think she's a little bit upset. Would be my guess there. And Claire, she's going to have to go some to defeat Sarah Wiltshire's record of 55 goals this season. So she'll have to take a massive pay cut, by the way. But I will keep her stocked in the fizzy drink of her choice in every game. That would be the best I can give her on that one. Maybe a Kit Kat every once in a while and some Domino's pizza. Other pizzerias are available too. Right, there we go. Listen, that's the Champions League, and that is Alexia. And we're one page down of a 3-page production here today. So we are going to move on to the second one. And this for me, Rob, I will kick off with you on this one. And I don't know whether you saw any of it at all, whether you paid much attention to it, whether you even care. But what I can tell you is what I'm about to ask you as a serial winner of a top league trophy, as Chelsea have been. I want to ask you about this one because another fantastic game that happened this weekend, I saw them fantastic, they weren't really, was in the Scottish Women's Premier League. And the reason why I have to throw this one out there is Hearts were obviously top of the table. They were 2 points clear of Rangers. Now, Hearts had to face Hibernian, who had obviously finished second last season. Second, or did they win it last season? Either way, they were in the Champions League. And Rangers were facing Glasgow City, another side who had been in the Champions League. And it was quite interesting to see because Rangers knew that if they beat Glasgow City and Hearts lost, they'd be the champions. What a game that turned out to be, because both sides were losing 1-0. So Hearts obviously go 1-0 down against Hibernian. Rangers go 1-0 down against Glasgow City. But what really surprised me was that Rangers just didn't come out to play. It didn't seem like there was just no fight. Glasgow City pummeled them. It was a bit like Ronda Rousey's return to MMA. It was just done. There was no fight. It was irrelevant. It was just a knockout. 6-0 they lost in the end. Bearing in mind the fact they knew that Hearts were losing. Now for Hearts, obviously brilliant news for them. They've won the title, first time they've ever done it. My question to you is this, because it felt to me it was a funny atmosphere. They weren't at their home ground. They were at Hibernian for a start, so that's never the best place to go and do a trophy lift. Do you think the joy of the situation can ever really be felt as fully as it could be if you've lost that last game and know you've only won it because the other team got absolutely battered? It's your first one. Clearly you're going to enjoy it. But to have to lift it 25 minutes after not really doing too well against a side that ended up finishing fourth, does that knock it down a bit? I mean, I'm very much like Claire. I watched them both at the same time. Had to watch the one that was English speaking because BBC Alba is just wild. I love that channel. Gaelic, random English sentence, Gaelic. I mean, it's brilliant. But yeah, enough from me. Rob, what do you make of all that?
I mean, firstly, I should say, Barry, obviously you as a fan, you're an expert at watching teams lose 6-0 on the final day. So, I sort of, I'm sure you can appreciate it. There's two schools of thought with this. Number one, I thought it was ridiculous, the lack of coverage and the lack of treatment it sort of got when you compare to how much coverage Hearts men got in their final day and you got for the coverage of the Scottish Premier League, when there was probably an equally compelling, if not more compelling, title race in the Scottish Women's Premier League, because I think there were, up until the week before, there were 3 teams that could technically still win it, which I think was, was sort of quite something. That said, I do enjoy being a good hater, so I have to give Glasgow City real plaudits. Imagine the fact that you have, I don't think they had anything to play for on the final day, I don't think they finished higher than third, and you just turn up to win 6-0. I mean, yeah, that's the ultimate level of hater, and I have to respect it, unfortunately. I mean, I suppose from a Hearts fan POV, annoying to lose at Hibs, but at the same time, you can now permanently laud the fact you won your first title at your arch nemesis's ground. I mean, what more could you want? What more could you want than being able to the fact that whenever you look at those title pictures, you're going to hear, and whenever they see it, again, I don't know if Hibs have won the Scottish Women's Premier League. I don't believe so. But it's the fact that Hibs fans that are there, all they're going to have done is seen their arch nemesis win it. What, that again, being an ultimate hater, great situation to be in. But I do think the lack of coverage was ridiculous. I think the losing 6-0 on the final day, that's a severe bottle. That is a severe choking. And you've almost got to wonder mentally how that will affect the players going into next season, because you're so close and yet so far, and you're perennially thinking in your head, if we'd turned up on this day, the other team lost, we would have been champions. It's going to weigh quite heavily. But yeah, from the hater in me, delighted to see it. But I do think, again, the lack of coverage of it was really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd agree with that. Just to clarify what I was saying earlier on, that Hibernian and Glasgow City both finished on 54 points last season, hence why I was a bit confused as to which way around it was. I've looked at a lot of leagues today. It's been very difficult remembering all their numbers. But yes, 54 points each. Hibs finished second to Glasgow City. Look who's jumped on. It's almost like you heard me say the word Scotland and he's in. It's amazing. It's like the Batman signal for sure on that one. And yes, a massive congratulations. I completely agree about the coverage. Emily, to answer your question, because it's a very fair one. Yeah. I feel like it probably would. If you're there in the last season and you've had 2 games, it wouldn't dampen it so massively that I can't enjoy it at all. But for me, football's all about the emotions and it's all about the roller coaster and all about enjoying those things. And yes, it is a roller coaster. And I mean, they knew and had a chance to get used to the fact they were going to win the title because of the fact that Rangers were getting absolutely royally battered by Glasgow City. It was never, ever a situation. I mean, it's not a lie. There's no point answering me a question and then when I answer it, tell me I'm lying. What possible reason have I got to lie to you? I would obviously be delighted. My point is, I don't think I would be as fully delighted as I possibly could be on the day. Obviously, I would dine out on the fact we'd won it for a ridiculous number of years, but surely winning the match and then winning the title is going to give you the 100% of it rather than the 90-95. I'm not saying, it's not like I'm sitting there going, oh, we just won the WSL, but we lost the match. Oh, it's terrible. I'm not evil. That's not the problem. I think what I'm getting at there is that it's just, it takes a little bit of the shine off of it, I suppose, is where I would be going with that.
I'll be completely honest, it doesn't. just to say, and again, I'll tell a personal anecdote in this regard. I was at Chelsea's game in 2014-15 when they won the Premier League under Jose Mourinho. They won the game extra plus, and then the game afterwards they played away at West Brom. They lost 3-0 away at West Brom. It was a terrible performance. It was the game Cesc Fabregas got sent off for kicking the ball at the referee. Still one of the funniest things I've seen in football. I did not give a damn about that. We were champions. I really didn't give a damn. I was more interested in celebrating it. The fact is, whether you lose the game or not, it's completely without jeopardy. If you lost the game on the final day and you weren't champions and you watched someone else win it, that would feel bloody horrible. That one definitely would stick in the throat for ages. But the fact you're already champions, okay, you lost one game. Who cares? You've lost it at a point when you're able to lose a game. It's not a problem. Just get on and celebrate it and stop being a miser.
Wow. Well, listen, it's never happened to me, so I don't know. I'm just telling you how I think I would feel. Like, I don't know. It's just it doesn't quite work for me. But then I suppose, like I say, it's a different type of enjoyment. I'm just used to not winning and then scoring 2 goals in the last minute. That's generally how we tend to do things. So, it's a very different type of torture that my team puts me through. Liberty, Freya, the coverage thing is absolutely wild. The fact that it didn't seem to be shouted about much, considering Hearts men failed dismally in their last game of the season as well. It had all gone a bit wrong. This was an ideal opportunity, especially with everything that was going on, with the Celtic fans jumping on the pitch and all the negativity around where a full-time whistle had been blown and all that sort of thing. This was a real chance for them to put something out there that might have, I don't want to say repaired the image, but certainly repaired some of the bad taste that was going around about that. They just didn't seem to put any of that out there. What did you two girls make of what was a very entertaining last day of the season in Scotland?
What I find with the coverage specifically is one of the most regular people on WSL coverage on Sky is Rachel Corsie. She's already being paid by Sky to talk about the WSL every single weekend. She's a Scottish legend, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not Scottish. I'm not going to speak for Scottish people, but she is one of the most recognisable Scottish people, and yet they don't seem to have the same appeal to get her to talk about her own country's league. I think an opportunity was missed because I think Sky know a lot of their viewership are very limited in their watching of football. And so when the fan doesn't put in, I'm pointing to myself for when the fan doesn't put in the effort to talk about these leagues, unless you are, a Scottish person, if you're not, when you don't put in the effort to talk about them on social media, on TikTok or whatever, then people like Sky can think they can do the bare minimum as well, or any broadcaster think they can do the bare minimum as well because they don't think the audience is there. And so I think it's as much on the broadcaster as it is on the fan to talk about it more. And I think that's why when we do these shows every week and we talk about 65,000 million different leagues, and we have people in the chat wanting to talk about 65 million thousand different leagues, that we're doing a little bit of good in a place that only wants to talk about English football. And I I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watch every single weekend of Scottish Women's Premier League, Premier League, Premier League. Because I don't have the time. But if I am, skipping, if I'm skipping through the channels and I see a game on, I'm going to turn it on. I've watched the coverage on Sky, and they have had some really good analysis on there for the league on games that I have watched, and yet the fact that it's then not really, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's not consistent. That's the word I want. It's not consistent, that it does a disservice to the league, especially when we are in a season that was going to make history, or had a chance of making history going into the final day, having the 5th new winner, a different name at the top, and especially because we could have had a Hearts double. Yes, the men shat the bed, which was very sad, because I really wanted, if you were here the other week, I was saying I really wanted a Hearts double. That's what I kept going on about. But the fact that they shat the bed, the fact that that happens, and then you kind of don't follow it up when you have the rights. And I think that there's too much focus sometimes from broadcasters on the English game to not help both the other home nations leagues, but also leagues further afield. And I also think I agree that I'm placing a lot of emphasis on Rachel Corsie because she's the person on Sky, and Sky have the rights to the league. But also, yeah, Jen Beattie is more likely going to be talking about the NWSL than anything else. And I know that she lives out there now, and that's where her bread and butter is. But also, these players came from this league, and I think that you have as much duty as anyone else to just do your 1%. I'm of the opinion that a tweet takes 2 seconds to write, and your one tweet or your one Instagram post or your one TikTok has more impact than I think people realize. So yes, I think the broadcasting was terrible. Not enough shouting, especially from a lot of British-based media as well. Maybe it's because I'm still sort of taking a break from Twitter, so maybe I missed it. But I think everyone could just do an extra 2% sometimes. However, Hearts, very well, congratulations. I don't think that the loss probably would have mattered too much to them. I think they would have been happy to be winning their first league title, especially because their manager is going to be saying goodbye at the end of the season, citing budget cuts. Well, I don't think she cited that, but speculation about budget cuts and stuff. And I think there's a very, very, very beautiful way to say goodbye, whether it's by your own choice or somebody else's above you, to go out with your first league title, first time in the Champions League. It is truly both heartbreaking that it has come to this, but also what a brilliant goodbye. And the video of all the players running up to her, she was doing her post-match interviews. I had a little bit of a lump in my throat because you know that's bittersweet. That's more bittersweet than the loss would have been, because you have to say goodbye. But to have that chance to celebrate her and what she's given to this club, and the fact that they could then reciprocate and win the club their first league title is really quite beautiful. So yeah, as much as there is doom and gloom, there's also lovely rainbows and butterflies. And the rainbows and butterflies is having that chance to make history, which I think is really, truly quite something.
Hilariously, as they did that run up to the touchline, they ran into a couple of them, the presenter for BBC Alba. And it just as it cuts for, there's one of the girls just going, "I'm so sorry about that." It's like, "Don't worry about it, it's fine." It made me giggle. There we go. We need to say at this point goodbye to Rob because his duty calls. So, Rob, goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure as always, and look forward to catching up with all of you soon.
Excellent. We look forward to having you back on again soon. So, thank you, Rob. And as Rob exits stage left, it would have to. Oh, can it be left? Was his? No, my fan's on the left, so he'll be fine if he exits stage left. If he exits stage right, he'll trip over it. So there we go. I suppose it would make sense to. Oh, I can't seem to remove him from the chat.
He's just frozen. He's just hovering forever.
Nice little picture of the corners.
There we go. That's there. Goodness me. So there we go. But some big things going on there. Freya, your thoughts on it as well. It is the sixth side to win a SWPL trophy. Glasgow City have won it 16 times, which is wild. Hibernian have won it 4 times. Celtic, Rangers and Kilmarnock have all won it once as well. And now you can add Hearts to that list as well. A fantastic achievement for Hearts. But as Freya said, Freya, as Liberty says, it's a bit of a madness that on the last day of the season, for me, I think Liberty's right what she says. We do have a country that is very focused on what's happening within this country. I do think people are looking for those stories, and that's the job of the media to try and find those stories. And that's what we try and do. Sometimes we are creating stories out of not a lot. But on this occasion, this is absolutely the situation where it was a massive story with the Heartsmen not doing so well the week before, the opportunity for them to put it out there. Rangers with the opportunity to win their second title, and again, just absolutely massive in terms of a story, and just didn't seem to capitalise on that at all.
Yeah, I think it's that issue within women's football of you need to be following the right people in the first place, and a lot of information you can't just come across unless it's like huge news. Like BBC, for example, tonight have put a notice out on their app. Alexia Putellas move possibly to London City Lionesses. Like, that's made the BBC sport kind of general. Everyone's getting that notification, but I don't think they would have done it for Hearts women winning, maybe. So you think, what's the relationship like between what actually gets published to certain people, what gets published to everyone, what gets, so it is very much that. And you think, even if they know they get a bigger audience on the men's Scottish League, for example, just do a little tag on the end, because on Sky Sports at the minute, on the WSL, it'll say, coming up on Sky Sports this week, we've got the American football, we've got this, we've got the, baseball, ice hockey, I don't know, things coming up on Sky Sports. So you'd think, at the end of the men's game, oh, you supported Hearts men all this season, why not support the women as they go for the like Libby says, it would take 2 minutes. Just do a little something, and then, maybe a lot of people might go, not bothered. But some people might go, oh, I'll check that out. And it's just those couple of people, and then a couple more and a couple more, and that's how we're going to do it. So I know in the chat they're talking about iPlayer, and I know I've watched it on iPlayer before, but it had to type in exactly the right thing, or it was on the red button, but then you had to find it under a really obscure category. And again, it's not easy to find. So I think that's a play with iPlayer more than anything, because there's been a couple of things where you try and type in Lionesses or sport, and it's like, no, we're not going to show you that unless it's exactly correct. So yeah, there's a huge letdown, and I think more people do need to be talking about it. And I think some journalists, as incredible as they are, and we know there needs to be more paid women's football and sports journalists in general, to be able to cover it, because I know people can only cover as much as time and their company allows. But you wish maybe a couple more of the big names as well, again, could just do a little tweet. Oh, this weekend, if you're not watching the Champions League, or if you're not watching this, this game's on, and this is how important it is. So yeah, I think it's just that awareness, because people won't be doing it out of, oh, I'm not promoting that. I genuinely think it's just a lack of awareness of what could be possible. So yeah, it was a shame, because what a weekend doing it for the first time. And I wrote a little article, actually, if anyone's interested, all of 15yards.com, of all the big 4 games this weekend, all in the same article, just to kind of sum it up. But Eva Ollids, people have said she's revolutionised the club since she came in 5 years ago. So it wasn't just a random match that means nothing. It had so much emotion attached to it. So yeah, more coverage needed, and that's why I'm glad to be a part of the show as well.
Yeah, and again, they're the British Broadcasting Corporations. You would think they would put a bit more out there, and this is the message you're referring to. To be fair, one of them, as I say, was on BBC Alba, which is a Scottish speaking but Gaelic speaking channel, and again, that to me shows that they were focusing that mainly on people within Scotland and not really pushing it out. But I'm sure they don't have any problem sending the WSL out to Scotland or any of those sorts of things. So, I think it's very important that we spoke about the Europa Cup not having any coverage really. These smaller divisions, unless they are given a little bit more of a shout out as and when the stories start to arrive. I mean, you can kind of understand nobody shouting about the fact that Rangers might be playing Hibernian in week 3 of the SWPL. But when you get into the nitty gritty, that's the time to draw people in. The minute you start talking, like I say, about the fact that 2 games being played simultaneously, either side could win the title, that's massive. And again, if you're a Hearts or a Rangers fan, the casuals are much more likely to tune into that because there is something tangible at the end of the 90 minutes. It's not just another 3 points. So I do think it's a bit of a missed trick there. So there we go. At the other end of the Scottish table, not something really to chat about too much, but Hamilton Academicals are the side that will be dropping down to the SWPL2. And contrary to popular belief within the chat, Spartans will be back in the SWPL because they won the SWPL2. Aberdeen, according to the SWPL website, which doesn't look like it's been fully updated, with some recent results that look like they should have been put in there because the date's gone and so is the kickoff time, but there is no score put on there. So if they could just pull their fingers out there, that would be lovely. But it should be a playoff between the team that finished 9th in the SWPL 1 and the teams from 2nd, 3rd and 4th played off. And it sounds like it will be between Aberdeen and either Kilmarnock or Queen's Park. And that match is due to take place on Friday, the 29th of May. So nobody else in the world will tell you about these matches, but right here we do. Friday, 29th of May. Don't tell me you're doing anything. It's half term and it's the weekend. So behave yourself. Get on Google, find out who's won, whether or not we'll be welcoming Kilmarnock or Queen's Park to the SWPL, or whether we're saying goodbye to Aberdeen, which I really hope we're not, because I have said on this channel before, that's my Scottish team, and I would be very disappointed to see Aberdeen drop into the SWPL 2. But there we go. That's Scotland. Tick. Out the way. Where are we going next? Germany. Why not? So let's throw that one out there. West Germany had a league that began in 1974. In 1997, it became a single division, a Bundesliga, if you will. And the Frauen-Bundesliga since then has, well, it's had many winners. The biggest one, excuse me whilst I just remove my glasses for a minute there, SSG Bergisch Gladbach, or something that sounds very similar to that. They've won it, would you believe, 9 times, I think I put that down as. 9 wins, 10 runners-up, something like that. No, 9 wins, 2 runners-up. The 10 runners-up goes to this year's winners, Bayern Munich, who have now won the title for the 8th time and have been runners-up 10 times. The team that finished second, Wolfsburg, they're very close behind. Bayern won with 74 points. Wolfsburg were on 58. So a tight title race going on over there in Germany. They've won it 7 times, finished second 7 times. And then Frankfurt, which always reminds me of hot dogs, came third with 51 points, having won the league 7 times and been runners-up 6 times. It means that Bayern Munich will be into the league phase of the Champions League. Wolfsburg will be in the 3rd qualifying round, and Frankfurt will be in the 2nd qualifying round. There are 5 points clear of 4th place. Bayern Munich, the only Bavarian team to win the Champions League. That's my random stat for you that I have pulled out of nowhere for the Bundesliga. I mean, it was, Freya, we'll let you start on this one. It was a one-sided title race in the end. I mean, a 16-point gap is commanding, to say the least. But as we say about these divisions, just because a side has gone on to win, you look at Chelsea, as we say, dominating the WSL, it doesn't mean that the matches week in, week out are not enjoyable or of a good standard. It just means that Bayern Munich at the moment are the flag bearers, but still catching up on other teams.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one this season because, of course, you look at who Bayern have got in their squad. I mean, Pernille Harder is the joint second, I should say, top goal scorer in the league with 16. So she's very much played a huge part in that dominance. But yeah, I mean, they've just been untouchable for the majority of the season. And if you look at the points elsewhere, there's not that many. Like, there's a slight gap between Wolfsburg and Frankfurt, but after that it's 4 points, 3 points, 3 points. So the rest of the league is a lot tighter than you would believe. So if we're comparing it probably a bit more like to a Liga F with your Barcelona right out there in front, and everyone else kind of bunching up behind and that competitive. But yeah, I mean, you look at the players like I mentioned, and what Bayern have been able to achieve in the cups and everything that they've done. But there's also, some big names leaving the German league this summer as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those teams adjust and where they go. And so yeah, it's been a very, very interesting season for the Frauen-Bundesliga.
Completely agree with that. I think it's a gratuitous use of the words Pernilla Harder, considering the absolute misery that she put upon me in the Champions League quarter final there. So I'm not a fan of that, but I come to expect Aston Villa to cause me dramas one way or another in my football happiness. Same question really to you, Liberty, there. Germany, it's only one team at the moment, Bayern Munich. They are certainly the team to beat. Can you see any teams closing that gap anytime soon? I mean, you look at an interesting fun fact for you. I'll just go back to my notes because this did make me giggle a little bit. When you look at the rest of the division, obviously we've got Essen and Karl Zeiss Jena. They're going down. They are the bottom two teams. We've got Stuttgart coming back up along with Mainz 05. So those are the two teams that will be replacing them. Big news, obviously, Union Berlin, Nuremberg and Hamburger, not the hot dogs. They all stayed up, having come up from the second division there, which is quite good. You know, we're talking about Charlton doing well, but it's proof positive that you don't have to be the side that goes down just because you've come straight up. But the reason why I mentioned all this is because when you look at the teams that have been relegated from Division 2, the Wolfsburg second team and the Bayern Munich second team are both going down into the third tier of German football. So whilst they might be absolutely dominating at the highest level, their reserve team, not so much in that case.
Yeah, I think that I don't see anyone closing the gap on Bayern. I think that they've now created a squad at large, despite who they are going to lose and what they play in the squad. A squad at large that is still better than other teams, especially when you consider that Frankfurt have already said a number of goodbyes, including their own Steinway-esque player in Geraldine Reuteler. I think that the most impressive thing from this top three is the fact that Frankfurt did actually finish third, because there were points at this season where they were down in like 5th and 6th, and they had a really, really bad start to the season. And so the fact that they've managed to find enough form to finish third and still have European football of some kind next season is quite impressive. Despite that, they are going to lose a number of players this summer, as are Bayern and Wolfsburg also too, because they're going to say bye to, obviously, Alex Popp will be going down to the club of her heart in Borussia Dortmund. I think that that's the most exciting thing that is going to happen to German football, is what impact is she going to have on them, and how are they going to obviously they're going to try and get to the Frauen-Bundesliga before her retirement. She has a 3-year contract, and how quickly will that happen? I think the thing about Wolfsburg is very interesting is that the men have just been relegated. They lost their playoff. Yesterday, the first leg was a 0-0 draw, but like yesterday, they lost 2-1 in extra time. Added extra time. And so what I was saying earlier, what impact is relegation going to have on West Ham? Well, the same could be said about Wolfsburg, who are going to be playing some form of European football next season. What will the impact of the men being relegated? Their sporting director has just left after I don't know how long, but a very big chunk of time as the sporting director of Wolfsburg. He's just left. Raf Koloman, is that his name? But he's leaving this summer, as well as Pop and Bernstein. And I think that there's going to be a bigger gap between Wolfsburg and Bayern than we've seen before, despite there already being a decent gap in the last 3-4 years. And I think that that's then on other teams to pounce on. I think Hoffenheim will be looking to close the gap even more. Someone like Leverkusen, who have been slowly building, will also want to do that. Who else? I've literally forgotten every other German team that finished in the top 6 other than those two. But these are the teams that will be looking at Frankfurt losing a bunch of players and having no real identity in attack, and still hanging on to a manager who should have been out of a job about 3 seasons ago. Wolfsburg being in this new great form of transition where Pop is gone. The sporting director, as I said, is gone. And they'll be looking to say, actually, we're going to do one better and we're going to finish in the top 3 because now is the time to pounce. And I think that they would be foolish not to take that step, despite Frankfurt getting, oh goodness, I can't pronounce her name, from Werder Bremen, but I can't even begin to try and pronounce her name. She was top goal scorer, if that helps. If you look up top goal scorers, Google her. But I'm not going to try and pronounce her name because
Is it Mulhouse?
Yeah, but I couldn't think of how it was spelled off the top of my head without looking at it, and I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, she's going to Frankfurt, and there is Selina Schershi. I've been told it's pronounced, but I'm not German. Is already announced her leaving Hoffenheim. So I think that they, as much as they are losing players, they're also going to be looking to take that next step against Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. But I think Bayern are probably going to have a sort of hold over Germany for a good few seasons yet before Frankfurt and Wolfsburg and Hoffenheim and Leverkusen and everyone else takes that next step. However, Union have already done some really good business because they've announced that they're signing Lisang Greer from Frankfurt. Brilliant signing. And I think that they are a team that are really looking to continue to push. They've had the stability of staying up this season and finishing, within widths of mid-table. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I got distracted by Adam. Hi, Adam. Widths of mid-table, and they're now looking at getting players that are very good in Greer, but somewhat on the fringes of other teams to keep building their team and take that next step themselves. And I think that that's one to look out for, Union, because I think that they are building a really quite exciting squad. And as the only team in Berlin, if you like a capital city, I'd go for them. But yeah, I think that's Germany is, like Spain, like France, more interesting when you look below the surface. And just look below the surface and you will find the interesting stuff. I promise it exists. Just the media won't tell you it exists because it's easier just to say that Bayern are holding a monopoly over Germany.
Absolutely that. Well, there you go. That is Liberty's thoughts on that. And one of your fans there in the chat saying hello to you. And Emily, absolutely shocked that Wolfsburg men have gone down. So there we go. Right. Where to next? Now that we've got through all of those. We are into Italy, the Serie A Femminile. Lots going on there. The first season of them having no split and just 22 matches, and then that's it, done. Not faffing about at the end of the season, sticking them into 2 halves and making them play off against each other like Scotland like to do. And a very interesting season it has been too. Roma finishing top of the table with 55 points and making it into the Champions League proper. Inter Milan with 44 points, 11 points behind, obviously. They will make the third qualifying round, and Juventus in third place with 39 points into the second qualifying round. Now, Juventus obviously won the title last season, Freya, which was a very good season for them, but Roma have been patching up. Now, Torres was obviously the side that has won the league the most times, 7 of them. Juventus, that was their 6th title last season when they won that. You've then still got to go quite a way down the list before you find Roma's name. You've got Lazio and Verona on 5, another Milan side, ACF Milan on 4. And then when you get to 3, you've got, it's time for the glasses again here, Alaska Lecce, Trani 80, and Reggiana. Reggiana sounding like a cheese to me on that one. And they are level on 3 with Roma, who've won 3 of the last 4 titles, 2023, 2024, and of course now 2026, which is quite something. Inter Milan never won one, which shocks me to my very core, actually, when I was looking through that to see that they've not attacked this as well as they could have done. So, Freya, I know that you love a bit of Serie A.
I do.
Talk to me about it. How do you think it has gone this season?
I've quite enjoyed it, as I usually do. Interesting you saying there about the number of titles. The AS Roma as it is, only came into fruition the 17-18 season. So as Mark Skinner would say, we're quite a young team. We're quite a young club, still settling in, still having a go. But yeah, no,
that doesn't help us as Man United fans when you're sitting there saying they're already just bedding in. They won 3 titles.
I will say nothing if I speak. No, Roma have done incredibly well. I think the person who has contributed to that as well has been Manuela Giuliano as well. She's just been incredible. Italian international, of course, but also it was the Coppa Italia final at the weekend, and that was Roma Juventus. Juventus, the holders, and I think Roma this season have just really attacked it from all sides. And Giuliano was the one who scored the winner in that game as well to do them the double this season. So I just think it's been about clever transfers as well. I think some clubs have been really switched on. They've made some really good moves. I think even teams like Lazio, they're, again, fairly new to the top flight. They've ended up finishing just outside the European spot. So Napoli have done really well this season as well. They were... Last season, they were fighting for survival. So the fact that they've finished, let me just have a look. I'm sure it was 5th. Was it 5th? 7th, close. But but they were only 1 point behind 5th. There we go. I knew I was close. But yeah, all the teams this season have really stepped their game up, and I think that's come from the leagues rebranded, and there seems to be a lot more money going about, and Juventus are actually looking for a new manager. Hilariously, Monse Tomé is the lead name to go to Juve as manager. Again, won't say anything on that. We're probably not a good appointment, that. But as Adam said there, hi Adam, have Roma risen from their ruins? They seem to. Because I think obviously Giacinti leaving, that was a big deal, but they've really proven that wasn't that much of a loss, and that sounds horrendous because we know what Giacinti can do. But yeah, it just seems like they've really risen and they've really gone for it. And yeah, I can't wait for the diary memes. If Monse does come back, that's going to be incredible. But yeah, I mean, the league this season, if you look at it, yes, Genoa, bless them, they just came up this season, but they only had 10 points, but they still had 10 points. Whereas, of course, other leagues we've seen, I think it was Hamilton in the SWPL 1 only had 2 points. It got relegated, but, the rest of them, we've got 17 points, 16 points, 18. So the ones that 2 of the 3 that came up were the bottom of the league, but Sassuolo as well was down there. So it's not as if there's a huge gap between the newly promoted and the existing teams. They've been able to really get stuck in and really make a go of it. So yeah, it's a league that still needs a lot of investment and a lot of awareness, and still needs to build a lot more. But if you think now you're getting different teams in Europe, you're getting different teams challenging for that title as well, because Fiorentina, who I think I said a couple of months ago could be in those top 3, I mean, they just finished 3 points shy of that. And Lazio in 5th were 3 points below them as well. So there's not that much in it. If you think about, 1 or 2 games can make the difference. So yeah, again, like the other leagues, it's not all cut and dry at the top of the table. Even though Roma have done incredibly well, there are still those battles going on between 3rd and 8th, really, for who's going to get those next spots. So yes, it's a very, very good league. We've also had news today. Again, shameless plug for the transfer tracker. But Tessa Vullart, who we know, Belgian international, is leaving Inter. So they're on the lookout for a striker. Had that news today as well. So yeah, it's going to be a busy summer indeed across the board.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Looking at the side going down is Genoa, obviously this year popping down, but we will be seeing the return of Perigomo back up into the top division, having won the Serie B. So great news there. Liberty, anything you would like to add on Italy? I didn't think that would be the case. So I'm going to come to you to your next specialist subject, which is Wales. Oh, I love being in charge of the show. It's massive in Wales, as you well know. Again, this happened some time ago. But I'm not going to drop you in it entirely here. Wrexham winning the title for the first time. It was Cardiff City that had won it for the last 3 seasons before that. Obviously, we know that Sean, God bless him, former legendary panelist of the show, moved off to go and do some social work. Not social work, that makes it sound like there's lots of children and families in trouble. Social media work. It's getting late. Social media work at Wrexham, and God bless him, doing incredibly well over there. They won the title by 4 points, so massive for them, and interesting to see as well. Another big side, I suppose, going into Wales. Now that you've got Wrexham and Cardiff City, you'd imagine there'd be a little bit of a rivalry and a potential. Very good, Adam. Very good. Like that one. So I think that's really quite an important thing for the division as they try and build it up. Other big news, Pontypridd. You'll remember Pontypridd because we had this conversation this time last year. We're in a playoff final against Connors Quay last season, as the winners of the North and the South in the division below. And Connors Quay, you'll remember, lost in the last minute of the game, losing it 3-2, and that was why Pontypridd came up. Pontypridd will be going back down. They lost. They lose, they finish bottom of the league, and that's what happens if you finish bottom. But get this, Liberty, Connors Quay had another opportunity to come up. They were this time playing Aberystwyth, and it was a much better performance, but they drew 1-1 and went to penalties and lost again. So Connors Quay have been in the playoff final now twice. I've lost both of them, and it will be Aberystwyth that returns. So with that in mind, have you got a little 60-second monologue in you to talk to me a little bit about the Welsh League?
I do have a 60-minute, not 60-minute, it's nearly my bedtime, 60-second monologue. That's 20 seconds of my 60-minute monologue on. Same as Scotland. Happy that there will be a new representative for Wales on the European stage, because obviously it'll be Wrexham. Very exciting. And I think for Wrexham, it is refreshing to see that the Hollywood support didn't stop at the men's team. I haven't got 60 minutes in me. I'm sorry. I have to have one blunder a show. It's like it just happens. It's late. It's nearly bedtime. But yeah, I think it's refreshing to see that their support didn't stop at one team, and it did continue across the whole club, because I think that it would be easy just to do the men's team and just finish there. But the fact that it didn't, and now Wrexham have a league title and will be playing in some form of European football next season. It's very, very, very exciting. So delighted for them and Sean and everyone in and around Wrexham, the town, the racecourse, the outside neighbourhoods that support Wrexham. Happy for you all. And yeah, hopefully it can continue into a good rivalry for the title between them and Cardiff and anyone else who wants to take the stab next season and beyond to make the league very exciting going forward.
Excellent job. It did work. I thought I hadn't unmuted. I'm like, why are you doing that? And I hit it again and it muted me. Naughty StreamYard. But there we go. Excellent stuff. And yes, it's very easy to concentrate on them. But this is what I mean. You see, you've got a side that could be on Disney Plus with all of that going on. It's massive. A UWCL thing there as well. There's a lot there that could happen. And that's got to be a positive for Welsh football. So let's hope we see a little bit more coverage going on over there. We will need a Welsh side moving into their next season. So we're very interested to see who we come up with on that one. But for now, we're going to move over. We've got two more divisions, ladies and gentlemen, to look at with a brief interlude of the WNL. And then we can finish off with our final little run around of the teams, and then we can all go to bed. So I'm anticipating a finish by 11, but we shall see. It all depends on these two lovely ladies and all of the thoughts they've got. But the Liga F has not finished yet, although it has, but it hasn't. Like legally, they've still got matches to play. Barcelona, just the 81 points this season. They let a few teams off. They would, of course, be in the Champions League next season, which they would have been anyway because they won the thing. So that's all good for them. Real Madrid finishing second on 69 points. So only a 12-point difference there. Not quite as good as it was in Germany. They will be in the third qualifying round, as will Real Sociedad, who finished third on 63. So a massive one there. We've got, I've used the word massive far too many times, I feel, in the last few minutes. I'm going to have to change that. A gargantuan season going on there. Alhama and Levante, they're going down. Bad news for them. Alaves are coming up because they finished second in the second division. Barcelona B also winning the league there. Absolutely huge for them. A little league double going on there. And then beyond that as well, some interest. Yes, exactly. See, Adam, you got there. You've worked out exactly what I did. And I don't know if you wrote that before I said that I'd said that a lot of times, or if you did it when I did. I don't know. It's too late to care. We'll find out. But what I really wanted to get to with this, because yes, I want you to talk about the Liga F as well. Which one of you feels like you want to speak about the Liga F the most? Show of hands. Who's going to win?
Okay.
Right, so Freya's going to jump in about that, which means Liberty, you're going to get the poison chalice question on this one again. Unlucky for you. So yeah, Freya, we'll throw that out to you. A really good season. I know you've spoken a lot about it being very competitive still, regardless of the fact that Barcelona have done as well as they have done this season. In a nutshell, what have you made of the Liga F season?
I just can't control my emotions. I think it's very much the same as, and we keep talking about it, all of the other league. If you just go beneath the surface and you actually look, because I know you mentioned Real Madrid there on 69, Sociedad 63. You've got two teams on 51. You've got a 45, a 41, a 40, 37. So again, you've got that bunching up between your fourth and your ninth, really. And again, if you look at the last five, all the teams have got such a good mix of lose, win, draw. There's only the top couple that have got win, 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 more than three in a row, or at least three in a row. So when you're watching it, I would really encourage people to watch, see what DAZN's got on that weekend. Yeah, they'll probably have a Barcelona game on. Yes, they'll probably have the Real Madrid game on. But sometimes, when they've got 4 or 5 on, if they've got the rights that weekend, watch Badalona, watch your Granada, watch all of these teams, because now we're getting to obviously the departures, and you've got Granada's captain who's leaving after 13 years. So it's figures like these that, unless you look beyond, unless you don't look beyond, does that make sense? Unless you really look at these teams, you wouldn't have a clue. And Atletico are losing their captain after so many years as well. And there's just all of these incredible Spanish legends of the game that don't get spoken about. A bit like in England, your Villa's not going to be mentioned, your Leicester's not going to be mentioned when there's a Chelsea or an Arsenal to talk about. So yeah, there's so many stories there that are there to unpick and to really look at. So Liga F, again, lots of investment going into it. I know I talked about Logroño. They came up this season and stayed up, 21 points, did well, just above the drop spot, but far enough away to not be in trouble. They got a brand new gym this season because of the investment and things like that. So I think a bit like what Annie's saying there, they're losing big names, and they are. So I think it's very much, we know there's issues with kind of attitudes higher up and the president and all those, which we won't go into because I don't have 60 minutes. But there's things that can be done at lower levels that can make the big impact. So they need to keep that homegrown talent. And we talk a lot about La Masia with Barcelona, but there are lots of academy sides and youth sides that are doing so well. But unfortunately, because they don't have the big household names, if you like, they don't get talked about as much. So yes, I would highly recommend pick a random game on a random weekend, and you never know, you might find your new favorite player. Because you've got people like Ari Arias, you've got people like Romy Salvador is really good. You've got all of these people and lots more. But yeah, you just don't get enough time or media attention, really. But yes, Sociedad have done incredibly well. I did have a look because I knew they'd qualified for Champions League the 23-24 season, but before that, it was an incredibly long time before they had. So yeah, Atletico are going through a lot of transition. They've announced 4 players departing, I think, including Vilda Borisa, who should like to come to Villa. That would be quite nice. But yeah, there's some big players who they're allowing to leave. So I don't know if they're going through a big period of change or what. But yeah, something's happening with Atletico. So hopefully next season can be more positive. Well, she was going to buy. Who was she going to buy? Was she going to buy Barcelona? Levante. She was going to have a stake in. She was going to buy it. So yeah, she's definitely looking at one team per country at this rate. So.
Would she really want Levante? Is she going to name them Lecante? Who knows? But they're going down. So
Lecante.
Who knows who they'd choose? But there we go. And that leads us to your Poison Chalice question, which is one that Claire's already mentioned. And we're going to shoehorn the WNL into a flagship show, which we don't usually manage to do. So we're going to do that right here. And the reason why I bring that up is because when we were looking at the listen, I don't claim for it to be good. I cater for all forms of taste here, both brilliant and abysmal. So there we go. I tried hard. It was a big attempt. So anyway, when looking at the second division in Spain, what we noticed was some fairly interesting things, because there is a playoff in order to decide who will be the second side to come up. Now, as I already mentioned, Barcelona B won the title, but they can't go up because they are a second string side. Alaves get the promotion spot instead. Valencia finished in third position, and Villarreal finished in 6th position. Finishing in 4th and 5th was Real Madrid B and Tenerife B. So you look at that, 3 B teams in the Spanish Division 2, and they're right up there in the middle of all of those teams. Now, I'll throw it out there, 30th of May, which I believe is a Saturday, you will have the opportunity, well, I say you'll have the opportunity to see it. I doubt it will be on the telly box, but you never know. But Valencia are currently drawing 0-0 with Villarreal. It's not still going on, by the way. It's just a 2-legged affair. They've not been playing that long, but they will be finishing that game off just then. So feel free to watch it or not if you can't. Find out about it nonetheless. But the question that I've got for you, Liberty, is a very simple one. There is a lot of talk at the moment in the WNL about what's going to happen there. Burnley have come up. Watford have come up. Wolves won the playoff and will have the opportunity to come up as well. Portsmouth will be dropping down. But the big news is that next season it's got to go to the FA for ratification. But they have agreed, despite the fact that I think it was 25 clubs within the WNL completely disagreed with the suggestion and others remained relatively quiet, that they're going to put 4 PGA clubs into the WNL. And they often tout Spain as being the reason why. Now, my argument against this, really, more than anything else, is that we're talking about elevating the Lionesses as if they're not having the most successful period of football ever. So it's not like they need any more. Yes, Spain are doing quite well as well. So reasonable to point out. But as I've just mentioned, their team's doing all right, but still in the second tier. So talk to us a little bit. Professional Game Academy, I think is what it stands for on that one. It's basically B teams, second string side, reserve side, you would almost call them, I suppose, but they're generally made up of under 21s. And that's being nice. It's quite often under 18s, to be fair, as well. So, a little bit of that. Feel free to talk about the Spanish League if you would so wish, but talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on basically the WNL effectively shoehorning these 4 clubs in, and it will just take them out of the PGA League. We all know what 4 teams it's likely to be that will get the opportunity to come into it. Doesn't really help.
Yeah, you can understand why they cite Spain as the sort of why we want to do it. But I always have insisted that just because something works in one league doesn't mean it necessarily will translate well to another. And the argument for it here is that there needs to be more done to create a pathway for academy players to go into WSL teams. So if they play against Burnley, suddenly that makes them really ready to play Champions League football against Bayern Munich. I don't understand the logic. I don't understand the reasoning, and I don't think it's a great idea. And I've always insisted that I don't think that it is a good idea for 16-year-olds who don't have proper strength and conditioning training to be playing against fully grown adult women who are stronger than them and, taller probably and are more stable. I don't think it's a good idea, and I think it's another attempt at the easiest solution to a complicated problem with no real thinking behind the problem. I think teams need to do better, like Emily said, needs to do better at actually facilitating good loan deals. For example, send your players on loan to Sweden. We love getting an English player on loan. I'll go and think of 2 right now who are doing really quite well. I think that there is this ease of loaning a player to a Leicester, to a West Ham. Other teams are available where they don't get the play time, or an Everton. Wasn't it Lola Harbert was on a loan at Everton and played like 2 minutes? If you do proper dignified research into a team that is going to suit your player, and where they have a gap where they need your player to play, they will play them. They will play them. Rosengard really needed a centre-back, a tall centre-back, and Cecily Wesley-Smith has started, as far as I have seen, every single game of Rosengard's season because they needed a centre-back, and she's a quite good one. Like, if you do the proper research and figure out where the holes are and send your player on loan there, they will get the minutes. Like, Brighton needed a striker. So Arsenal sent Michelle back on loan to Brighton, and before she tore her ACL, she was playing because they needed a striker. They still need a striker now. Also, I'm really sorry, but my window is open and there is a fox shouting outside. If you can hear that, I'm very sorry. I just needed to point that out.
Sorry, a fox shouting?
Yeah, it's like screaming. Like, have you never heard a fox screaming? It's terrifying.
I've heard a fox scream. I've never heard one shout. You make it sound like it's wandering past going, "Wait, Papa, do you fancy a kebab, mate?"
What? Okay, I'm just pointing out that people don't think that people being hurt in my household. It's out. My window's open. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea, and I think that it is once again the attempt at doing the easiest solution to a problem without any actual proper thinking, because the overseers of women's football in this country like the easy option first before proper thinking quite a few times now in their 1 year in charge. Who would have thought? So yeah, I don't think it's good, and I think citing Spain as the reason why it works is really quite foolish, because it works in Spain doesn't mean it's going to work here, when we have a very different setup in terms of the way we think about lower league football in this country is quite different to Spain, and people consistently say we want to do better for below WSL2 in this country. We want to build football in this country organically up from the ground up, and just plonking in Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Man United academy players against fully grown professional women, it's not going to help anyone at the end of the day. And it is once again just the easy option, and the fact that is sort of where they've stuck it is just really quite ridiculous. And like, at this point, do you even like football? Like, the people running, like, do you actually care and think about these things? Because I can see about a million different ways that this could go very wrong, and so apparently you can't, and you're the people running the sport. I'm not. I'm just a guy sat in the corner of my bedroom on a Monday night. It's actually Tuesday, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, and very tricky. I mean, we talk a lot about, you've just mentioned it as well here, but the WNL clubs like Arsenal back in the 80s and 90s would run reserve sides in lower league, sometimes even third sides. So it's hardly revolutionary. And I agree with you. Nobody's saying that there's not a reason for doing these things, but I think the reserve sides weren't necessarily mostly under 18, and I think that is the big thing. Now, I look at our reserve side at Stevenage. We've played a lot of youngsters within that in Tier 6, and don't get me wrong, they've done incredibly well. The first season, not so great. They nearly got relegated. Second season, not so great. They nearly got relegated. But as they were getting more and more used to it, it's worked quite well for them. So I can see a logical argument for it, but the argument doesn't really work when you consider the fact that in general, if you're playing at Tier 3 level, you're not really ready for international football at that time. So, what happened to the WSL2 would be my question here. We're not throwing them into the WSL2. I wonder why that might be. So if the argument is you're trying to get them ready for international teams, I'm not convinced that this is necessarily going to do that, although it will, I am sure, give them a much harder job and a much better training than if they were just playing against other PGA sides. And of course, this fact has also been reported in The Guardian that basically there's £500,000 worth of investments coming to the WNL, but it looks like that seems to be And again, no guarantees on this one, but it seems to be locked in with the fact that they'll only get the investment if the 4 PGA clubs come down, which, you know, is a little bit dodge for me. And then you look at the other 500 grand that was supposed to come along, and that's from the FA, which you would argue should be coming in anyway. So we will find out in July whether or not that is going to happen. We will be having a Low League Lingo show about this, and we have hopefully secured a very special guest to come on that show. She used to be the head of the WNL, Carol West, so we are hoping that we will have her on Lower League Lingo. She's currently not in the country, so fingers crossed our network of people have managed to pin her down. She's interested in the show. That's the best exclusive I can give you on that one. But whether or not we can get her across the line remains to be seen. I feel like Michelle Kang at this point, although I just don't have the money to offer her. But she could have the fizzy drinks and the Kit Kat that I was promising Pateus, who I can confirm has rejected Stevenage. So there we go. Right, Freya, France. Let's throw you over to there. They finished their season, but they're now into the playoffs. These are the playoffs that are designed to stop Lyon from winning incessantly, but generally fail. Especially when you consider things like the fact that first played fourth, Lyon against Nantes. They won by 19 points against them. And then they won the playoff game 8-0. So that was a really close one for them there. Much closer between the side that finished second and third with 48 and 47 points, as Paris FC defeated PSG, who got the top goal scorer in their midst, by the way, in Rene Leuchter. 1-0 that win for Paris. So it will be also on the 29th of May, same day that you can watch the Scottish playoff that we were talking about before, although it's in the evening, 9 o'clock Central European Standard Time, if you're interested. Will be Lyon against Paris FC. Is it going to be Lyon winning it again?
I mean, you can't ever rule them out, can you? And we all said, the playoff should be a playoff for not Lyon. Did not let Lyon not win it. I don't know what I'm saying, but it shouldn't just be for that purpose. However, I think other teams need to continue to step up, and we know. I think it was Claire earlier talked about Dijon and what they're facing at the minute. So I think there are still issues if you're not one of those top clubs. Then there's lots going on behind the scenes for whether that's, lack of money for investing in new players or for wages, things like that, or even just time and effort. Because it seems like some presidents really can't be asked with their women's side. So, it's a tricky one. And, you've got teams that will get into these playoff positions and will really want to go for it. But like you said about some of those harsh wins, like 8-0, I mean, Lyon are just another level. And we saw, against Barcelona in that Champions League final, we know what they can do. And against any other team, they probably would have scored and they probably could have won it. But it takes a special team to win against them. It's a... Is that for a 6-0 Lyon win? It's one of those where you're always hoping for the underdog in these situations. Can the other team do it? Can they cause an upset? But I think it would be silly to count Lyon out. But hey, Paris over the last couple of seasons, we've all talked about how much they've grown and how much they've come on. So I think a lot of people might be rooting for the underdog in this situation. Here's to Paris winning it. Hey.
Well, I mean, that would be an incredibly exciting moment. Adam, talking about Dijon Mustard, whether they've done anything good. But Claire mentioned earlier on, they may lose their professional status. Not something I've seen. Liberty's nodding. So let's bring her in. Talk to us about everybody's favourite topping of a hot dog.
Essentially, from what I can remember, that this happened a good couple of weeks ago now. They were told that they were going to focus on the men's team that the men's team that play in like the 3rd division, by the way. Bear in mind, Dijon finished 6th, 5th, and had a really quite decent season, finishing well in the top half. But they were told that they were going to focus on the men's team that are way below where the women are, and that they may have to give up their professional license and basically cease to exist. And this happened before they played Lyon. I want to say about a month ago, 3-4 weeks ago, and then both the Dijon players and the Lyon players came out wearing, the Dijon players came out wearing shirts that said something along the lines of like, support the women. I don't speak French, but they had a message on, and the Lyon players stood with them and they took a picture with a banner, and there was statements on social media basically saying we deserve better, because they've had a very good season. And once again, the men are like in the 3rd tier. And they were told they were going to focus on the men because essentially an old white guy runs Dijon. And so his decision of worth is a 3rd tier division men's team over a women's team that are really pushing to be in that top 4 at the end of the season and going to the playoffs and stuff. They're really trying. And so that's what that is. I haven't heard anything since. I'm of the opinion that no news is good news, though I'm not sure if that can exist in this place. But yeah, that's what happened. And it is insane that a team that genuinely has been very good in France this season genuinely could have their license just taken from them and their professional status just because this man wants to focus on a tier 3 men's team. Tier 3 men's team. I'm just gonna say one more time just to like hammer it home. But yeah, that's what happened, and it is a quite chilling reminder of the realities of this sport and what actually does happen in teams, and the fact that they're not the only ones. There is a team in the USL in the US who Spokane, I believe is how it's pronounced, Spokane, who one day they turned up, they were in the changing rooms, the club officials walked in and said, at the end of the summer, this team is going to cease to exist, you will not have jobs. And then they walked out. They walked into the other room where the men's team were having a fully catered breakfast. And they just told the women that they were not going to have jobs. They were not going to be paid because they were paid based on performances, not on like a paycheck. So they were just not going to be paid from that moment on. And they went and had a fully catered breakfast with the men's team. So look, there is several examples across the world where this is happening, and you get to a point where you lose words, you don't know what to say, but yeah.
It does go to show there is a long way to go for women's football still to catch up within the 50 years that it was obviously missed out on. So huge, massive things still to happen, I think, within the game. But, fingers crossed, we will find a way in which women's football can survive without needing the input, I suppose, from the men's team quite as much as they seem to. So yeah, there we go. That is what's happening in France. The big news in terms of going down, Saint-Etienne are down, Lens also down, and that was a tight one. They finished on the same number of points as Montpellier, and 13 goals worse off, and as a result of that, will be the side that go down. So Montpellier staying up on goal difference. Coming up is Toulouse and I'll say that again, Saint-Malo, something like that. So those will be the two teams popping up there. So okay, that's France. Right, the good news is That's all the league's done. We've done incredibly well, but we haven't finished with the Champions Parade because sitting somewhere within my thumbnail, I think it was up in the top right, there you see them, is a little team in green who are lifting the IKEA Cup, which we have followed diligently. It's not called the IKEA Cup, just in case there's anybody watching and you want to start having a go at me. But it is a good idea if IKEA get involved. Stick some money in there. Why not IKEA? Come on. You can give us meatballs. Give us this. Get in there. Sponsor the cup. But it is the Svenska Cupen, of course. And the winners are, how do you pronounce this side again? Hammarby or something like that. So there we go. I'm looking forward to hearing our friend Liberty use those exact words. She's going to talk to us all about the joys of Hammarby winning the Svenska Cupen, and she's then going to finish off with a little update as to how our Swedish team of the year, Rosengård, are doing. Off you go.
Thank you. The final was 10 days ago now, quite a while, but that doesn't matter because I'll always have an excuse to talk about it because we didn't have a show last week. We won. It was quite dramatic. Very much a case of taking your chances. There's a very scrappy goal from Mari Nigahagen. No, that was wrong. Nihagen. She's Norwegian youngster that joined in the winter, and it was very much a tap in, bit messy from the Bikehaken goalkeeper, but we'll take it. And it was in extra time, I should say, in the 114th minute, I want to say off the top of my head. But the real shout out I want to give actually is to Melina Luck, who is the Hammarby goalkeeper, because without her, Skruder could have had several goals. She very much kept Hammarby in the game, and had then having Mari have that one chance where she scores to win the game was all because of her. She had some brilliant saves, and she's continued to have some brilliant saves against Malmö last week, and before that she's only conceded 2 goals this season. We are in game 6 of 7. We have to play one of our catch-up games tomorrow, but she's only conceded 2 goals in those 6 games. One was an own goal in the opening game of the season, and then one was last week against Malmö, but we won 2-1, so it's fine. But yeah, retained the Svenska Cupen, the IKEA Cup again. Obviously, we won it last season when I was there on my way to Lisbon, but retained it this season. So it means that Hammarby and Häcken are 1-for-1 in titles against each other this season. And so the real winners, whoever wins the league come November, is the real winners. And for Rosengård, they had their first win of the season and they're out of the relegation space. Yay! They won 3-0 on the weekend against, I looked up how to say this because it's the most fun thing to say in the world, Eskilstuna they played. And yeah, they had a 3-0 win. Finally got 3 points on the board. They'd had a couple draws, but finally 3 points out of the relegation zone. And hopefully they can continue to build from here. And also, it's quite impressive that they had this 3 against Eskilstuna because they are third at the moment. Newly promoted team this season. Currently, after their 7 games, are third over Malmö, who obviously we know was in the very same position as they were last season. They were promoted and then finished third. Malmö have now lost to Häcken and to Hammarby. But yeah, Hammarby are first on goal difference. Both them and Häcken are the only teams to not drop any points this season. But their last catch-up game is tomorrow. Hammarby play Eskilstuna, as I just said, and Häcken play Ike, I think. Yeah. But yes, Rosengård, 3 points on the board. Happy for them because we're starting to look a bit scrappy and a bit scary. But finally 3 points on the board, and hopefully they can build more from there. And Hammarby are the Svenska Cupen winners once again. The gold, in the immortal words of Alice Colson, the gold stays in the south, which just literally means that Hammarby are based in the south of Stockholm. But yes, that was the Sweden update.
There you go. I believe the next game for Rosengård is, and this is not, I'm going to absolutely butcher this, but they're playing IF Bromma.
It cut out right as you said that. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I said it really well. How would you have pronounced it? IF Bromma.
Oh, you can just call them BP.
Tell me that now.
Sorry, I just realised. Uncle Tony told me like about 6 months ago that everyone just calls them BP, but it's Bromma Pure Kana. It means the Bromma boys. Fun fact, I looked that up the other day. Bromma is
Where are they?
They're in the table, not very high.
I gathered it was in Sweden. I wasn't asking
You
the
meant like
geographical.
in hang on 1 second. Not very high, as I said. I'm going as quick as I can. They are 11th.
Okay, so the potential
15.
for points there then.
Look, one space above. 1 point above as well. It's close.
Big game.
But yes, you can just call them BP, apparently.
You don't expect me to remember that that's what we said back then. I mean, I'm very impressed that you remember. Congratulations to you. I've got far too many things to remember that. I should try and remember that now, especially now that we are looking at it on a more regular basis. And speaking of teams that we look at on a regular basis, it's time for our updates of our 3 other teams worldwide that we are covering. The first of which, of course, being Botafogo Women, who are in their own little relegation scrap as it goes. They've not had the best of times. They've not scored in the last 4 games, which makes it very unexciting. In terms, I mean, yes, Annie, absolutely. That does seem to be the case, but we're supporting them this season. So go, Botafogo is what we shall be seeing, regardless of what happens. But they are in the relegation zone. They've lost to Palmeiras 3-0. The more disappointing one came on the 24th of May, just a couple of days ago, when they played America Mineiro, who are only 16th in the league, which is not great for us because that is literally a spot above Botafogo, and they lost 3-0 to them as well. So the way that it works is you get the top 8 go into a playoff, then there's a bunch of teams that get eliminated, and the bottom 4 would get relegated. And Vitória are bottom of the division at the moment with 3 points. Then you've got the mighty Botafogo, which is not ideal for them. And then, of course, you've got America Mineiro with 6. Mixto, is that? Yeah, Mixto in 7. And then Juventud with 9 points. And that's big because they will be playing Juventud on the 27th of May in 2 days' time in the Cup. Not really bothered about that. It's a bit like the FA Cup. We'll go straight to penalties if they manage to beat them, but considering they're struggling for goals, it's not looking likely. The big match is on the 31st of May, where they will be facing Vitória away. And if you were listening carefully, you will know they are the side at the bottom of the division. So they are 4 points from safety, which is where Juventud are at the moment. So massive for Botafogo. We will keep you updated with how they get on in what is already a pretty big match. From there, we move to the NWSL, where we're covering 2 teams purely because they were new. Very good. I see what you did there. But no, it's go Botafogo, not go Botafogo in that case. We are looking as well, as we said, at Boston and Denver, neither of which managed to get a win this weekend. Boston losing to Seattle 2-1, which is not great news. 9 points at the moment for Boston in 14th place. Seattle with 14 points, but in 9th place. So that's a nice little switch around of the numbers there. I think Rachel Riley and Carol Vorderman would be delighted with such numerical joys as that. So that's quite a big one. Just trying to read what I've written down there. Seattle are level with Orlando Pride in 8th position there as well. Denver also losing 2-1. But they lost to the Utah Royals. Now, Denver are 12th with 12 points. The Utah Royals are top, if you don't mind. And I suppose I did say to the girls, if they want to jump in, this is the league they should jump in on. This has blown my mind a little bit. What has happened in Utah? Because at the end of last season, you had Chicago and Bay really struggling down there at the bottom. And then you have the Utah Royals just above them. And now, all of a sudden, they're top of the bleeding division with 23 points. Now, they were having a pretty good renaissance at the end of the season because they were bottom and then pulled themselves off of there. But my Lord, they are at exactly that. They are literally flying. So if you've got something to say, throw it in on this one.
Yeah, I'll jump in. For Utah, it's a strange one because you're right. They were excuse me, they were the ones to be written off essentially. So I had to have a look just to see kind of what people's thoughts were, because they look like a completely different team. And most journalists are saying, is this actually the same team? What's happened? But what they're talking about now is that they've kind of changed their whole ethos and whole way they're trying to approach the league as well. And one article that I'm just saying is, can friendship win games? Which sounds horrendously sexist. However, looking at it, it looks like actually what they should have said was how do player relationships and trusting each other and bringing in the right team members. That's what they should have said rather than does friendship win games. And as Zanni's saying there, they've got a good Japanese midfielder. They do. So they've bought well and they look like a team that are finally settling in to this league. And what I just wanted to also say as well, BFC, if anyone saw that game against Chicago Stars, Bay got 2 red cards and a goal disallowed. So so that was fun for them, and not the season they would have. No, not the result they would have wanted. However, fantastic news for Mallory Swanson because it was her first goal back since having her baby. So, congratulations to her. She's back, and Chicago Stars again, another team probably doing better than they have, especially last season anyway. So it feels like there's going to be a lot of movement this season, because of course Kansas City Current aren't exactly doing what people expected after finishing so well last season. I think the thing with the NWSL, with there being no relegation and things like that, it can be from season to season a complete 180 from the one before. So if you don't watch it and you've got a bit of insomnia, they're on at great times for you if you haven't watched NWSL so far. Yeah.
Liberty's staying very quiet over there in the corner, so I'm assuming that she has nothing to add on this one, which means we've come down to the final question. This isn't a question. Emily just saying that San Diego Wagner starts the season 2, which is a good point to make. The last question is simply this. We've got the FA Cup, the Women's FA Cup, of course, taking place this weekend as well. Also on the 31st of May, same day as the huge Botafogo game against Victoria away. I know which one I'll be watching. I won't because it's not on the telly, so I'll have to make do with the FA Cup, won't I? But it's going to be Man City against Brighton, which we were not expecting necessarily. Can Sean get the double of a Wrexham Welsh Championship win and a Brighton FA Cup? I would say probably not, but what do you reckon? Liberty and Freya, City v Brighton, how do you see it going? What do you see the score being? And literally this show will last as long as it takes you to answer that question.
2-0 City.
Did you say who am I
That's
asking?
okay.
Both of you. I want both of you to answer.
No, Liberty said 2-0 City.
She's tired, bless her. She's ready now. It's like, yeah, that's it. 2-0 City. Don't need to talk about it. She's smashing
ready
it.
to go.
Funny sure score both. That's up, Barry. Excellent. Freya.
Brilliant. I'll always root for an underdog. So I'd love to see Brighton win, finish the season on a high. But again, you can't rule City out. So I'd love it to be close. So 3-2, 2-1. I don't know. But I'd like Brighton to get something from the match.
I think it's an interesting one. You think about how well Brighton have done in these last few games as well. It's not going to be an easy game at all, I don't think, for City. I just like to say, I hope it will be a very close finish and not a one-sided 6-0 Rangers Glasgow City type match. As long as both teams turn up and it's a good affair, that's all we're after. And with that, we talk about extra time penalties and a free bar. That's exactly what we've gone through tonight. 2 hours and 40 minutes, I am convinced, is the longest show I've ever been on any of the all four channels that we've ever done. We did a transfer special when we thought that Chloe Kelly might be coming to Manchester United, and then she just went off to Arsenal. That show, I'm sure, was 2 hours and 37 minutes. And that was only by popular demand because we weren't sure what was happening. So 2 hours and 40 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, this could be a world record. I will go back and check. But my massive thanks to Rob, of course, who wisely dipped out an hour and 17 minutes ago. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the next time I say to you, let's just move it to next week, we'll have a chat then. But you need to curtail me and go, no, because that would have cut out at least an hour of this show, I reckon, being able to talk about some of the others. But my big thanks. Cheers, Liberty. Thank you, Freya. Much appreciated. We will hopefully be back next week to cover whatever bits and pieces might be happening. There's still plenty going on because although the seasons are over and we've got champions galore, there is still plenty more. And we're here to cover it because unlike most media outlets, we cover everything all across the world. See you next week.